All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. Welcome to another show. This is a kind of a fallback. I haven't done one of these in a long time. Doing kind of a, it's not really early morning. It's like a brunch time Saturday show. And I was going to be covering this topic because this will be one that's kind of like maybe only interesting to like half of my audience, maybe less than a third. I don't know. But it's some Pine Creek stuff. This is actually a little bit unusual. So I'm going to be looking at the Andrew Wilson Matt Dillahunty debate that they had on Modern Day Debate, that they had live. They had that in person, just to set
It
this
was
up in context.
it was
Um,
it was such a great debate. It was so awesome. I was so impressed.
right. And it's now infamous because Matt Dillahunty walked out after he gave his opening. Wilson gave his opening. Dillahunty raised some objections to the things that were in Wilson's opening statement, and then he left. This got around very quickly. People started sending me information about it. I don't really follow Dillahunty all that closely. I like some of his stuff. I disagree with him on some things, but that's neither here nor there. I don't really follow a lot of his content, you know, routinely. I do catch things from time to time, and people were like, "Hey, did you hear about this? This is pretty funny." And so this is like 2 months ago. So I'm of course really late to the party on this. But what kind of intrigued me about it initially, I wasn't all that interested in it, other than yeah, I'd seen clips of things that Andrew Wilson said. I had watched Dillahunty's opening. Dillahunty's openings seemed kind of typical to other openings I've heard him say before. And then Wilson's comments raised my eyebrows several times because sometimes they were immediately contradicting themselves. And then that's sort of kind of where I left it. But then I saw Pine Creek covering it. And so what I'm going to be doing is setting this up. So he started to cover this about 2 months ago at the tail end of one of his like 3 hour long live streams. And so I'm going to be starting with that because he starts reacting to it. And the reason I'm starting with this one is because he's incorrect, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but he's kind of reacting to things that Wilson's saying. And then the other video, he comes back to it, kind of acknowledges what he got wrong in his initial reaction, and then kind of covers what Dillahunty said. So we're going to try to cover as much as we can of that. I'm more interested in kind of hearing, for the sake of this, Pine Creek's reactions to Andrew Wilson's comments, because I think Pine Creek makes allowances for some of Wilson's dialectic that he wouldn't make for other people on other topics. And that will become obvious. So joining me today, occasionally here and there, will be Jay from his channel. Say hello, Jay.
Yep. Morning.
Yeah, or Yawn. And
Well,
then
it's,
Michael.
it's it's really dark and rainy here, so it's like I got like 7.5 hours of sleep last night, and I'm still not awake.
Yeah,
So
I've got a hoodie on inside. It's about 66 degrees in here. It's completely white out. I've got coffee. Like, yeah, if it weren't for coffee, I'd probably be nodding off already. And it's incredibly bright. Like, it's just solid white and gray outside. Um, and then Michael, the Canadian from the Canadian Atheist Podcast, he is here to join us. I'm not sure how long either one of you will be here, but this is sort of a freewheeling one. I'll probably end up throwing the link up a little bit later as time goes on, for people that might want to drop in and say hi or make comments in real time with their
yeah, and I
voice.
yeah, and I had covered. I think it's funny that you're going over this because it's been a while. Of course, we've had some stuff happen family wise. So, but yeah, I covered that, or I should say I attempted to cover the Andrew Wilson and Matt Dillahunty debate because I had my own. In my opinion, I just basically summed it up as essentially as an ad hominem. And
Wilson's intro, yeah, basically is. Yeah, he's just poisoning the well a lot, and then yeah, and it's not really even on topic.
and I remember, if I remember correctly, I remember listening to some of this from Doug of Pine Creek here, and he missed a very and I think he played the part in the debate where Wilson says it. And when if we get there, we get there, and if not, I'll bring it up later. But he completely missed it, which I thought was pivotal to the how disingenuous Wilson was actually being. So we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight a few comments here. Good to see J.L. Warren. He's checking in on us live. Scott, is this really going to happen? Well, it's happening now. Maybe Scott's dipped out.
It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was interesting. I purposely, when Jefferson messaged me about this earlier on in the week, I went back and watched the debacle, if you want to call it that, between Dillahunty and Wilson, but I purposely didn't watch this because I wanted it to catch my virgin ears for the first time this morning.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Because and that if you'd asked me to, I would have been like, no, there's no homework necessary on this one. This is just let's watch it, react in real time. It's not that deep. But I think I've covered Doug before, and I am going to apologize for anybody that was a fan of the cartoon. I used that thumbnail of Doug from Nickelodeon, the I think beloved cartoon character. I only ever saw that cartoon when I was at home sick with the flu, so I only ever associate the cartoon character of Doug with nausea, vomiting, and other influenza symptoms. So I every time I look at him, yeah, he always kind of. And I'm not trying to say that that's what happens when I see Pine Creek. Pine Creek. No,
but I think we can all agree that haircut ain't fooling anyone, Doug. I just had to throw that out there.
And you can say that about both Dougs, because there's just four lines up there, and we joke because we love. I mean, I'm bald. You're bald.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that he's lost more along the sides than he has off top, and whereas we've lost most of the shit on top, and then he still got the sides.
I gotta be honest. I kind of envy that he's got the Camaro tuft up on top so he can cockatoo that stuff. Yeah, I kind of wish I could do that. I had this little the curly Q is still kind of up front, but it's slowly fading. I need some of that finasteride.
Yeah, but I mean, Jefferson, you could have it, right? I mean, plugs are available to everybody. But yeah, I mean, it is like and I am also of the follically challenged group.
Yeah.
And it's funny because for me, I have to look at it and be like, Doug, brother, you ain't fooling anybody. And that's what was like for me. Like when I started to when I looking in the mirror in the morning, I'm like, this is not fooling anyone. Time to go.
Hey.
It kind of reminds me. There was I think it might have been the Simpsons episode where Homer joins the Navy, and he goes in there. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe that's not the clip I'm thinking of. But somebody shaves his head, and it's just those two strands that top off the top, and they land in his hands, and he starts crying. Really? It's like you had two hairs.
I used to have a similar haircut when I was in the Army. They called it a high and tight. They razor shave that shit all up the sides. And you just have this little snatch patch is what we called it.
Yeah. Deaton in here is flexing, full luxurious head of deep black hair speckled with the white of wisdom here. Yeah.
Oh, go fuck off, Michael Deaton.
Yeah.
Go ban someone from Jeff's room.
Yeah, Deaton might be one. Deaton's probably one of those guys that can rock. If he gives it enough time, he can rock like a Sam Elliott top knot, circa Roadhouse. Fucker. Every time I saw that haircut, I'm like, I wish I could do that with my hair as I'm holding tufts of it in my hands. Like, oh, fuck.
Or how remember when we tried to remember when we were younger, we tried to grow our hair long, but because we've got enough of our dad's curly hair genetics, it just grows out.
Yeah, it just grows tall. Yeah. I would have been more likely to do the kid and play, super
it starts to if it gets too long, it just starts to look like what's the term I'm looking for? A neglected shrubbery.
Yeah. If we'd gotten with somebody that was like Edward Scissorhands, they could have turned the tops of our heads into a topiary.
Yeah.
Lori Hayes says, "Hey everyone, hope all is well. This Wilson guy is more of a POS than Didi, if that is possible." I would agree. I really do think that Wilson is.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah,
mostly because I think that they've caught. I mean, Tom Rabbit's caught Darth Dawkins lying. Other people have caught him lying, but he's so bad at it, and he's so obviously up his own posterior about everything that it's hard to tell if he's just sort of suckered by his own BS. And with Wilson, there are times you can tell he's not being honest. You can just see there's something about that and the fact that he looks like he smells like axle grease and cheap cigarettes. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I would say that the one thing that The one thing that I would have to give Wilson props for is he has enough courage to show his face, whereas
True.
whereas our friend Ding Dong doesn't.
Well, not yet.
You know, he oh, what would he say? He lacks the testicular fortitude.
True. Yeah, and Andrew Wilson is taking, I think, even some of the same kind of like politically poisonous, immediately canceled positions that Darth would take. Like women shouldn't
Oh, they
be
would totally be
Oh,
bro dudes. They would
oh yeah,
totally be
yeah.
bro
I don't.
dudes.
Guys,
Eventually, they'd find some.
to be fair, it's Darth Dawkins' way of protecting those he loves and keeping his identity secret, so his enemies don't go after the people he cares for.
Just like
No one.
Spider-Man or Batman or
But that's no one, right? Because he took his dead mother's car. His brother's still out looking for him.
His brother is not, in fact, looking for him. I think his brother knows exactly where he is and knows to avoid that area at all costs. All right, so enough tangential stuff. Let's get into the meat of this thing. Let me make sure I don't have this the speed turned up. Oh, maybe I will. Doug tends to turn the speed up on his videos. So, okay, so again, just to set this up in context, this is sort of Pine Creek heard. This is the point during a live stream a couple months back. Pine Creek has heard about this debate going sideways, and then he decides to play some of it. So he's kind of reacting to this. And I do want to point out here, Doug kind of initially makes a mistake, kind of a foundational mistake in evaluating this. He does address that in the next video. So here we go.
Okay, I wanted to check to see if Matt Dillahunty actually walked out of the debate here.
Yes, he did, and it wasn't his
Planet
first
Earth,
one.
lie to them. This is human flourish. Just redefine shit, pretend it's true. How laughably absurd this worldview is. Matt will often say, I remain unconvinced. Well, Matt, I'm also going to use your standard. I need for you to 100% convince me beyond a shadow of a doubt that males can have babies. What's the answer?
Now, to give everybody a heads up, if there are some people who are going to be watching this live and others who will watch it later, who have possibly seen the entire video, the original debate. For context, I did place the link for the modern day debate video, that their link, in my description, so it's there. You can watch it from beginning to end.
Lock up your firearms so you don't get tempted to use them on yourself.
Yeah, don't make comments like that live, Jay. I would recommend, I would recommend not having like hot, like, don't be sipping any hot coffee. You will scald yourself.
Pad the corners of your furniture.
Yeah,
if they're not padded.
I guess, and I should have said this at the beginning too. Content warning, Andrew Wilson. That covers really everything. If you're wondering, like, will it be misogyny? Yes. Will it be possibly racism? Yeah. What about homophobia? Definitely. Just everything. Andrew Wilson, and then all of the bad things in the world in a content warning. That's him.
I like where you pause this. That look on Doug's face is priceless.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a thumbnail. That's a thumbnail right there.
Fuffy.
So just for the sake of this video's presentation, the context of the topic of the debate was something like, what is a better kind of ethic, right? And it was something like,
what's a better ethical ground? What's a better ethical,
an ethical framework?
Yeah.
And
Christianity or secular humanism. Yep.
Yeah, Christianity versus secular humanism. Which one's a better ethical framework or more moral framework for society? Something like that. It's kind of a flabby title, right? And a big topic. Probably too big, really, for a pointed debate. But Matt, which this hasn't been shown here, which is fine. But his whole thing was essentially like, okay, Dillahunty's job is to present the side of secular humanism as the better foundation for ethics. And then so you would think that given the title of the debate and the terms, Wilson's position should be, he's going to present why Christianity is in fact the superior foundation for ethics for a society, right? And then you start to compare and contrast and rebut each other. Wilson's opening is automatically equating secular humanism with quote unquote Matt's view, quote, his entire viewpoint. So he's not even really paying it, which is interesting because if you watch the whole debate, I think there's actually a part in Matt Dillahunty's opening where he even acknowledges that there are things he disagrees with secular humanists on. secular humanism does have a charter. There's actually a group of secular humanists. They kind of have like a thing that they've set up. Dillahunty mentions that in his opening, goes kind of through it. Not he doesn't go through it, but he mentions that as they have a framework. They've revised these charters over times. These are kinds of their outlooks, their stances on things. And then Wilson, like not presenting an argument, not presenting an opening that this is why Christianity is a superior ethical framework. His entire thing is like, I've heard Matt Dillahunty in the past say X, Y, and Z, and this is why secular humanism sucks and is gross. And
yeah, and it's really interesting. First of all, Jefferson, it's Zed. But sorry, I couldn't help it. But what I found interesting about it is there was this really weird thing where it seemed like I tried to take a 30,000-foot view of it, and it was like, okay, so Doug is taking. He took this one. Andrew Wilson took this one little thing and he said, because he talks a lot about being honesty and being honest and not lying to people, and bred in that is all of his unbelievable homophobia and transphobia, etc. But he talks, it's not good to lie to people. It's not good to lie to people, which is ironic because that's what all religious people do is lie to people. So, but it was really interesting to say, it's like I'm focusing on, it's not good to lie to people. And if we say a man can have a baby, we're lying to them, and that's not good for flourishing in society. And it's just too bad that he went off this unbelievably like razor sharp cliff into the transphobia and homophobia and all this other stuff.
Yeah, well, I when I did my video on this, my problem with I basically told my audience at the time, Wilson did not do an important thing, which was to remove, like, imagine someone reading that opening statement that Matt Dillahunty is giving as though it's not Matt Dillahunty, like it's a stranger, and then just, okay, you've heard this opening. That's what you're going to, then you're going to give yours, and that's what you guys are going to talk about. If you take Matt Dillahunty out of the equation and put someone like let's say Doug right there, and just have Doug read whatever Matt wrote, his argument, his position goes nowhere. It renders Andrew's whole thing moot.
Yeah, because Wilson's whole approach is just to attack Matt. And what he thinks is, and then like his only real defense is like, well, Matt's ideas are they're equal to secular humanism, so it's as if he's just giving himself an excuse. Well, I've just conflated the two, so that's perfectly fine. I can do that, and so my criticism is valid.
Yeah, almost like he's created a straw man where Matt is the arbiter of all that is secular humanism, and so if he can basically break down Matt Dillahunty to an absurdity, he renders secularism to an absurdity because Matt Dillahunty is the arbiter of secular humanism.
By extension, yeah, and he thinks he's playing a great game of chess by doing this instead of what he's actually doing, which is indulging an enormous fallacy that anyone that's watched this kind of stuff should be able to point. Doug from Pine Creek really should be able to point it out, but because Andrew Wilson's going after the woke crowd, I think Doug is going to be like, ooh, frosting on that cupcake, and is going to get distracted and not think critically. So
answer going to be, no, Andrew, you big stupid. Males can't have babies. Men can have babies.
Yeah.
Because we just define man to include females, dummy. Well, Matt, I remain unconvinced. I'd like Matt to convince me that if you are a male and you are having sex with another male.
So far,
what does this have to do? Again, this is, well, let's see what Doug has to say.
Why do I have the sneaking suspicion I'm going to agree with Andrew Wilson here?
That's it. That's the frosting. He took the anti-woke frosting. Ooh, he's getting them. He's triggering those libtards. So the problem with this is that, again, Doug is not taking a 30,000-foot look at this. Like, why is Wilson talking about trans issues being equated with secular humanism? That doesn't have anything to do with it. And it wouldn't have it. And on top of that, it doesn't have like, hey, I'm a Christian and transsexuals, icky, gross, weird, so therefore I win. Like, okay, what about the trans people that are Christians and don't agree with you? What are you going to do about them? I guess Andrew Wilson's only response to that would be, well, if they're trans, they can't be real Christians, categorically.
I love it when you do these streams. Michael Deaton's love for Doug truly shows out in the live chat. He wrote, Doug has a sneaking suspicion he's going to agree with the POS because survey says he's a POS too. Ding, ding, ding.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, this is, he took the bait. He really did take the bait, because Wilson's like, hey, check it out. I'm gonna get you guys. I'm gonna pervert this entire debate with some of this this red meat for the anti-woke types. Like, look over here. Don't pay attention to the fact that I'm already failing at what I was supposed to do. You know, aren't those trans people, aren't they all woke scolds and strange and uncomfortable? So hey, listen, look at me, watch me trash this guy and conflate him with all the things in society I don't like. I win. Like, yeah, neat. That's neat. And Doug, who's normally if these kinds of comments were about another topic and they were coming from a believer, he'd be a lot more inclined to start to slice these apart. Jails of Pine Creek, or what happens when you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Yeah, he's gone Harvey Dent on us, folks.
But Doug thinks he's the hero that we deserve.
Yeah, but now he's just chaos.
Sorry.
More than Matt Dillahunty.
Which would not be allowed in my version of a secular humanist worldview. How is it that you're
That's because Wilson doesn't know what a secular humanist worldview is. He's just like, secular humanist? You mean trans?
not just basically having sex with a guy with a wig on? I really want to know the answer to that question. Not just me, but all rational people who aren't lunatics also want to know why it's ma'am isn't a complete and total crock of garbage. Because I remain unconvinced that it isn't a total lie, and that these people don't just pervert the language to include their own perversions and then add human flourishing at the end.
So a claim that he's making there, everything that he said was wrong, which is fantastic. The one thing that really sticks out is when I hear guys like this, absolute dipshits, talk about quote unquote the perversion of language, my spidey sense immediately jumps up to 11, because that means this is more than likely the kind of person who will be like, the dictionary says this word means this. Like, wrong, dipshit. The dictionary documents what we say that word means. Language is a dynamic thing. It changes all the time. It's changing all the time. And so when they're like, oh, you're just trying to pervert the language into something else, oftentimes, I mean, and this does happen, activists will make changes or will influence things to try to change language. But do you know who really influences language changes? Conservatives. The politically correct and politically incorrect terminology, more or less, was flogged by conservatives. They really flogged that kind of language. Look at what they've done to woke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Woke was an African American vernacular term that they co-opted and turned into a catch-all phrase to mean everything that they don't like.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. With like, I spend a lot of time talking to Christians, and when I've asked them, what does woke mean? And they trip over themselves trying to come up with what it is they think it means, not identifying what it actually means, basically being aware of injustice and stuff like that and trying to do your best to rectify them. But had you said, like what you just said, had you said that to Andrew Wilson about words being polysemous, etc., and he just would have said, oh, you're making language woke now. He would have that's the kind of shit he would have said.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And this is goofy. He puts up this thing. Would you rather have Palestinians become atheists or stay Muslim? I would rather have Palestinians stay alive.
Yeah, exactly. How about not get murdered?
Not get bombarded and treed and shot.
Matt has said he wouldn't make a law stopping 9-year-olds from having sex with each other. Not kidding. Now, I know this is going to sound a little bit totalitarian.
Hold
but
on to your butts, folks.
Laws that made
It's
it a
going to
crime
get
for a
crazy.
9-year-old to have sex with their 9-year-old. I would hold the parents criminally liable for allowing this to happen in my evil authoritarian society, where I don't even let 9-year-olds have sex, or the parents go straight to jail.
To what extent? So if okay, you've got 2 kids, families over, let's say it's around the holidays or something like that, or you got friends and family, you got two
Do we
kids.
really want to explore this?
No, we're not going into detail. You got two kids that get caught playing doctor with each other, right? They get found out. One parent of one child calls the police on the parents of the other child.
Mm-hmm.
What are the police going to do? Nothing. There's not going to be anything to do. They're not going to hold either set of parents responsible for the sexual curiosity of one of those kids. That's just not like, I want to know how Wilson is going to even no. What I'm talking about is if they actually have, okay, so it has to be what? It has to be vaginal intercourse. Where do you draw the line at this?
Yeah, I think in Canada, what they probably do is arrest the parent that called 911 for improper use of emergency services.
Yeah, they probably would. So Wilson's just like doing some pearl clutching here. Also, that's not what Dillahunty's thing was. Dillahunty was not, and he goes on to defend himself. Like, I didn't say that I don't that I agree with that. I said I wouldn't propose a law on it. How are you? How do you enforce a law like that? My kid had sex with your kid, therefore I'm going to press charges against the parents. Like, again, of the kid that did the sex. Two kids did the sex. Now, if you've got a kid it's engaging in something aggressive, equivalent to prepubescent SA on other kids, well, then you've got a problem. But the parents aren't going to necessarily be culpable unless they're trying to cover for the kid or something. More than likely, they're going to have to get that kid into lots of counseling, at least counseling. So yeah, this is just an absolutely stupid thing for Wilson.
And what Wilson's referencing is a debate that Matt Dillahunty had with Daniel Hakapichu, the skeptic Muslim, or whatever, the Muslim skeptic.
Hakikyaku or something like that.
I think it's Hakipichu or something goofy like that. Either way, yeah.
I was gonna say, what Pokemon character is that? What the hell?
The Muslim, the one they made to represent Islam.
They would never. They're Japanese. They definitely would.
I know it was a bad.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out is nothing but a parade of stereotypes, courtesy of the Japanese. They have no problem stereotyping. All right.
Hey man, I still play that. I have one of those video game systems that plugs into your TV that has 84 trillion games on it.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out's on there, man. I still play it.
But does it have Mike Tyson at the end, or is it the replacement that they?
No, it's Iron Ike Myson.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Because after he gave that girl VD, they were like, yoink.
Well, there was also the
smack.
The trips to prison. Yeah.
Yep.
For negligence. Now, I think that's better for human flourishing. I think maybe parents would be far less likely to let their 9-year-olds do that if they went to jail.
How many people are concerned about 9-year-olds fucking each other?
Parents.
What world does Andrew live in where you really have to be as concerned about 9-year-olds fornicating?
He lives in a childless world. There's no way this guy has kids, because he wouldn't be talking about this. Like, your parents, these parents allowed their kids to engage in fornication. Like, most parents struggle to keep their kids from engaging in things like taking all the paper off the toilet roll. You know what I mean? For Christ's sake, they're not really letting those kids do anything. In some cases, parenting is a lot like management by crisis.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Like when my daughter's a grown up now, but when she was younger, when we had play dates, they go up into her bedroom and stuff like that and play. I never had to before I kind of pulled the door halfway closed. I never said, "No, hey guys, no fucking."
Yeah,
I never once did I have to say that. It was play nice, not, hey, no fingering.
Oh.
Tossing a condom. Yeah.
Exactly.
No over the pants stuff either.
Exactly.
And according to the timestamps, see, coming up soon in 4 minutes, Matt leaves. So I'm seeing what leads up to him leaving.
Stupid me. Next, I would, in my authoritarian society, decree that all simulated sex acts in public were criminal offenses and would make sure that all people went to prison for the crime of indecency.
Simulated sex acts. For anybody that's not familiar with Wilson and
He's talking
people
about
like
people
him,
on pride parades.
he's talking about pride parades, and he's talking about people in drag. He thinks that's simulated sex. By that definition, a husband and a wife kissing passionately outside, when one of them is leaving the other, that is simulated sex. Take them into custody, kill them. It's a capital offense because a kid saw that and
I will
was
sit here and watch it while I
groomed.
smoke a half a pack of Camels. Go.
Yeah, this is absolute performative nonsense. Like in my authoritarian society, we would enact plans that could never possibly go into effect and couldn't possibly be administered except by a massive administrative state that, of course, I also happen to fundamentally disagree with. So, excuse me. Like he would be better off just doing some kind of ping pong shows in Thailand, if you know what I'm talking about, are more educational than what's coming out of this guy. Like,
Michael Deaton writes, Andrew Wilson is the most sexually frustrated man in history. We will 100% have a story about him getting caught snorting blow from a ladyboy's bunghole within 5 years. Now, most people would say, Michael Deaton, don't be fucking ridiculous. But with some of the people that you meet online, who's to say?
and here's the thing. Like AR says,
Matt Bell.
Yeah, AR says no holding hands. Yeah. Like, to what extent are we talking about simulated sex? Because for this guy, a man, and it's interesting, a man dressed as a woman, a drag performer, I think he would say that's simulated sex. A woman in a flannel shirt and overalls and men's boots, is that a woman in drag? I bet you Wilson doesn't think so, because he doesn't give a shit about that. He does not care. When he talks about trans issues, he only talks about trans women. I almost never hear him talk about trans men. And when somebody brings up an example of trans men, he just dismisses them, usually. So this just sort of gets you the idea, like, oh yeah, that's just because he can get that in his misogynistic, chauvinistic head. He understands. Oh, well, of course, women want to dress like men. Who wouldn't want to be a man? This deal is great. But a guy wanting to wear lipstick and high heels, there ought to be a law. I mean, he's a quack. Cat the humanist, Gene Simmons. Yeah, Gene Simmons should be arrested. Also, if wearing drag is something that's a simulated sex act and we should do something about it, Prince needs to be in jail. David Bowie needs to be exhumed and placed on trial posthumously. Marilyn Manson, he's already been canceled, but I mean, he's got to go. Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, John Leguizamo, and
Patrick Swayze.
Swayze.
Patrick Swayze has passed away, but yeah, even him.
Exhume him, and burn him at the stake because he's a heretic now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be beneficial for Andrew Wilson. Somebody needs to kind of like the Clockwork Orange technique, hold his eyeballs open and show him To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Yeah.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah, but what's really funny is that people also like this. So, like people of this ilk will also talk about the good old days, right? But if we're talking about bodies we had to exhume, we can't exclude people like Bob Hope.
I think it's because he.
Yeah.
I do.
What about White Christmas with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye?
Yeah, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. See,
you got to get rid of Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, the way to read JL's comment there is, I drink Monster daily. Am I woke? I certainly feel woke.
Michael Deaton helpfully points out Prince is dead too. Yes. I do remember, but see, to me, Prince can't die. He's not dead. In the same way Tupac still lives, Prince is still with us.
Which doesn't assist with human flourishing, and I'd like to know why I'm wrong.
Oh.
Secular human.
Plenty of people have told him why he's wrong. He just is not listening.
Humanism can basically be whatever the hell you want it to be. It doesn't really need the principle of freedom or the starting axiom of freedom and peace in order.
Can't Christianity be whatever the hell you want it to be?
To postulate whatever it wants.
No, you can't. Not according to orthodoxy. Sorry, my apologies, Andrew.
Sloganeering.
Yeah, it's whatever they wanted it to be. That's so orthodox. Wasn't Christianity whatever you want it to be? No, I'm an Orthodox Christian. Oh, right. Yeah, right. So it's whatever they said it should be. Yes, exactly. Yes. You don't have a problem with that? No, I'm Orthodox. Right.
Slogans, they don't mean anything. Okay, why do 9-year-olds need to be able to have sex in order to advance humanity?
Not the point. That's even going off the point for him.
He's really stuck on that. I find that concerning. He's really
It's
stuck on
and it's
9-year-olds having sex.
and it's a complete this. I mean, it's not even just a straw man. It's completely irrelevant. It's a complete red herring. It's like in the subject of that debate, the guy was like, "Hey, this thing happens with these kids. Would you be in favor of there being laws against that kind of thing?" And Dillahunty's like, off the top of my head, no. How do you enforce something like that amongst 9-year-old kids?
It's like you
Wilson's
get
got
this guy in a psychiatric couch, so it's like, methinks thou doth protest too much.
yeah. What's going on here? Why is this a hang up for you? And he's like, well, how is that? How is allowing kids to do that beneficial for human flourishing? At no point, and this is no newsflash for anyone. At no point did that ever come up in Dillahunty's opening statement. Never, not even
No,
close.
but because he had an argument with a Muslim about it on the previous debate, it might as well be, because all of it's fair game.
Right, and that's all Wilson understands. Matt
Yep.
Dillahunty equals secular humanism equals icky bad. Yeah.
There is something that I do want to bring up, because I think Doug has passed this part, because I think it was earlier. I could be wrong, but I think it was earlier in Andrew's opening here, where Andrew basically said the way that he basically concluded that secular humanism is bad and Christianity is better is he actually, now remember, he's been protesting about, the main thing he's been protesting about when it comes to secular humanism is what he believes secular humanism is promoting men to lie about being women when they're actually men, right? But earlier in his opening statement, he said he would rather have a person believe in a God that's false than adopt anything that Matt Dillahunty is saying about secular humanism.
I don't think that. I think at the point that Doug turned on the video, it was past that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if Doug didn't see that part, that right there was the death knell for that was really the death knell for Andrew Wilson's opening, because he's sitting there virtue signaling about how we need to talk about facts, how facts are important. And this is why secular humanism is wrong, is because it's promoting this idea that human flourishing can occur when men are lying about being women when they're not. But by the way, if you want to believe in a God that's false, that's fine. You go do you.
Yeah. Because he thinks that belief is somehow going to somehow preclude you getting involved in the woke stuff, because he lacks imagination. It's like,
Yep.
I don't think he understands, because I really do think for guys like Andrew Wilson, the news, and he's only been, I got to be careful about this because I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know if Doug brings this up. I think he may bring it up in this one or the next one. Wilson has only, at the very least, he's only been an Orthodox Christian for 2 years. According to Wilson, he stated this. So I don't know when he actually converted to Christianity in general. And so, if he said, like, I've been an Orthodox Christian for 2 years, or just a Christian at all for 2 years. But he's a relative recent convert, at least to that denominational take. He might be a relatively late, for his life, a latecomer to this. Like, he didn't come up in this. He has completely adopted the Christian nationalist political identity aspect of Christianity.
Well, remember, because he can't engage in apologetics because the Orthodox Church prevents him from, according to him, prevents him from talking about such matters.
And yet here we are.
Well, he can't. Well, anything that he holds to be an apologetic. So, like, when somebody asked him about, because Doug actually asked him a question about something about.
I think that he's actually equating that with, like, presenting what are they called, theonomies, like defenses of God or proofs of God or whatever, or theodicies. I think that's what he's, yeah.
Because Doug asked him if he wanted people to believe, if he thought people ought to believe in God or not, or something like that. He asked him on an open live stream. I think it was one by P.F. Young, might have been hosted by someone else. Either way, and he said, "No, I can't talk about that because I'm an Orthodox."
It's not theodicy. It's a philosophical concept that recognizes the probability of the existence of God and theorizes that both good and evil need to exist in the world in order to create a sense of balance. So no, that's not the word I'm thinking of. But yeah, no, I think I know. Yeah, in other words, if he's trying to, he's not qualified to present an Orthodox Christian theological defense.
Yeah.
For the existence of God or for the existence of Jesus or the divinity of Jesus, etc. But he can engage in this sort of Christian nationalist identity politics. He can push that up front as a shield, and then when somebody asks him for his cred, he'll be like, "Well, I'm Orthodox." Like, okay. So, are we going to talk about Jesus? I'm not qualified, but you will tell me that abortion is equivalent to murder because Jesus. You want to tell me how that's not a double standard and how you're not just copping out?
Mm-hmm.
You need to know the justification. You want to see rules passed in the name of Christian ethics and virtues. But when I ask you to justify and defend the grounding for those virtues, you are like, oh, you need to talk to Reverend so and so over here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay. Like, oh, okay, join my church and then you'll understand. Like, said the cult member.
Why do we need to lie about a person's sex in order to advance humanity? Why are these things
Lie about a person's sex? We're not talking about their sex. We're talking about their gender.
necessary for human flourishing? Why are decency laws bad? Why would Christians?
He's not proposing a decency law. And Matt Dillahunty wasn't asked about passing a decency law. He was asked about a law that would prosecute 9-year-olds for engaging in sex of some kind. And it was ill-defined. Like, okay, what kind of sex are we talking about? Because usually and this is something, it's really important to bring this up. If a conservative and usually a believer, an apologist brings up sex, they're talking about penis, vaginal intercourse. That's all that they're talking about. The problem with that is that there ought to be a law. Then when you present them with, okay, what about blowjobs? What about anal? What if the two children involved are same sex? Then what? Oh, well, naturally, if they're same sex, that can't be a good thing. Okay, to what extent? Holding hands? You don't want two boys or two girls holding hands? Well, no. Well, it depends on how it depends on do they stroke each other's fingers? Like, okay, how do you want to enforce this? Is the question. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I want to. Tom said, I noticed that Wilson connects the dots from abortion to eugenics. Yeah, and the only way, I almost bet that the only way that he is doing that is by going after Sanger and accusing Sanger of being a eugenics Nazi.
Which is only done because they like to hold that up as like, okay, for the same reason that he's doing this with Dillahunty. Margaret Sanger is progressive. Margaret Sanger equals abortion. Abortion equals eugenics. Therefore, Margaret Sanger plus progressive equals abortion equals eugenics equals get fucked woke libtard. He just conflates everything because they're tangentially connected and then says, oh, they're all equal. Like, this is literally a guilt by association kind of thing. And it's not even equivalent. It's not even correct. There are people
And the other thing you said there was, it's like sex not being the same as gender, but not in Andrew's mind. They're the same thing.
They're the same thing. Yeah, you can't make the distinguish between man and male equal. And anybody that tries to tell you otherwise is, quote, perverting the language. Like, okay, Andrew.
Ethics stop flourishing when the theist mandate is to reproduce, and the secular mandate is let's just all have sex and have fun.
Pause that for a second. What was that? The theist mandate is to reproduce. I thought you weren't supposed to get into that shit, Wilson.
Mm-hmm. And the theist that's an interesting take, because just because you can be a theist and not adopt a faith tradition. So he's wrong there too. I could be 95% kind of convinced that there is very likely some kind of creator being. Therefore, I'm a theist psychologically. And when I'm asked to present my opinion, it's like, well, what do you think? There is a God or there isn't a God? I think there is a God. Aha. All right. So you're a Christian like me? No. Aha. So you're a Muslim like me? No. Oh, so you believe in the pantheon of the Hindu God? No. You don't have to actually accept any of those identities in order to be a theist. So he's conflating theists with Christians and conservatives. Well, if you're a theist, then you believe that the men and women have a role. They're male and female. They get together and they produce lots of kids. Your goal is to propagate more humans, make more humans. That's God's command. That's the theist position. Like, that is not a theist position. That's not even a Christian position. That's a specific kind of Christian position. Depends on your denomination. So he's just completely categorically wrong here.
He may just be taking the whole Genesis thing, right? become fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth.
Oh, I'm sure he is. But his problem is like, okay, he might be able to then turn around and say, well, because we get it in Genesis, that means if you're a theist, like, okay, what about being a theist equates with me being Jewish or Christian or even Muslim? Because if you're Muslim, you're gonna take seriously, at least the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. But those are three choices out of there's other theists out there.
Of course there are, yeah, but you're
Yeah.
like you're making the mistake of looking into this further, which Andrew clearly hasn't done.
He hasn't done. Yeah, he's just got this. Well, and what I find interesting about Wilson's way of thinking is that he actually makes shallow talking points shallower. He's one of the few people that I've seen do this kind of stuff where he'll go out on a limb and be like, no, the theist position, like, don't you mean the conservative Christian position is to produce kids? No, I mean theist. Really? So everyone that thinks that there's a creator God or gods, because if you're a theist, you could be believe in a polytheistic kind of metaphysic, not just a monotheistic one. Like, it's amazing to me to watch him do this. Like, I mean, he's sloppier than even like Ben Shapiro. Uh-oh. Dr. Josh is here to set us straight. I'm going to be honest, atheists are dumb faces. They can't even say that curling your hair with an ironing board is wrong. Baseless assertions and snotty noses, pathetic.
Yeah. So
Hey, I'm going to offer a comeback by quoting Cartman from South Park. Lame.
You can tell too when it's the digital Hammurabi thing, and it's because I'm used to seeing notifications and stuff, or like things through Patreon or stuff, and I can tell the difference, if it's Megan or if it's Dr. Josh, because
that's
Dr. Josh will come in here to troll. Megan is too smart to come in here to troll. She does not care.
It's totally Josh. Hang on, I'm just putting Josh's cell phone number into the chat here. Hang on one second.
People can find you on Instagram, right?
You want to troll, motherfucker? You want to troll?
Everyone like and subscribe at Digital Hammurabi.
Oh yeah, I got your phone number, and I know a lot of phishing scammers.
That sounds way worse for human flourishing. In fact,
Yeah. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the topic of the debate is Christianity versus secular humanism, which has the best ethical foundation. To me, that's a horrible topic because it's just a matter of
If it's making it's coherent. What, Josh, in your defense, what you wrote was perfectly coherent.
Yeah, but
it might have been a more scathing rebuke of us than what I could get from Andrew
I'm
Wilson.
sorry. I can't see Megan ever writing dumb faces. Just no.
She jumped straight to the C word. If she was angry, it would be F off C word, and then you're canceled. Like, oh shit. If you get her ticked off, she does not play.
English.
If it's Megan, it's coherent.
opinion, because I'm a naturalist. His opinion is going to be the Bible and God and the church, and Matt's opinion is going to be society through years of testing and learning of the social contract of what makes the best society, blah, blah, blah.
Which in some cases does jive with secular humanism, and I think in some cases doesn't. So, because I'm pretty sure if you ask Matt Dillahunty, hey, are your views about ethics like one-to-one aligned with secular humanists? I don't think he would say, yeah, they're like we're completely in sync. There might be things in the secular human, again, because you can find these charters, and there's no evidence that like if Wilson was giving this, he's not presenting, it's easy to see, he's not presenting a case for why Christianity is better than secular humanism. He's presenting an opening that talks about how bad Matt's view is compared to what he knows conservative Christians assume about the Christian worldview. He hasn't presented a Christian worldview. It's just dog whistles and implications. It's already built in.
But see, that's the other thing that I find kind of really disingenuous, because if he told Doug a while back that he's not allowed to talk about this kind of like these kind of Christian apologetics or whatever, why would you agree to have a conversation with Matt Dillahunty where the topic is pitting secular humanism against or against Christianity or vice versa?
because
Why?
I think he can like he'll probably I don't know, I don't think that he would make this case. You can make a case, and there are plenty of people that are starting to do this. Ayaan Hirsi Ali's latest conversion is essentially like this, where you don't convert to Christianity, um, you know, uh, Catholicism and all. You don't have to necessarily go and get confirmed in the Catholic faith or whatever they call it in the Orthodox tradition, but you can convert to or kind of align yourself with a kind of cultural criticism or cultural conservative Christianity, cultural Christianity, which is more of a political identity. And so I think for Wilson, he doesn't make the weird thing is, I think it's
Wait.
important to make the distinction, and I would give Wilson the benefit of the doubt. The problem with doing what he's doing, like, okay, hey, you want to present a cultural Christian perspective from fundamentalist, conservative Christians on how they think society should be run. Great, let's hear what they have to say. And he'll say all the stuff. We don't like the trans stuff. We want laws against simulated sex. We want this. We want this. We want this. Then you ask him, okay, justify it. And that's where he's up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah, because now he's got to go back to that why.
Because he's in the same position that he likes to put others in, where they're like, hey, or Dillahunty, like, hey, the reason I think that we should do this is because is this a decision that makes other people benefit? Does it lead to flourishing or happiness or health or whatever? And Andrew will be like, oh yeah, justify that. Even though Dillahunty will be like, well, we can evaluate it and say, do more people benefit than not? You can look at it either from a consequentialist perspective. You can look at it you could even kind of look at it a deontological kind of perspective, man's duty to their fellow man kind of thing, if you wanted to put it that way. But Wilson won't do that. Wilson will just be like, this is what Christians want, and then present it as if it's a monolith, because what he's presenting is not what all Christians want. He can't represent the trans Christians in the Christian community. He has completely he's erased them. He's ignored their existence.
Yeah, but so Tom says Wilson does not debate the validity of the truthfulness because Tom says he's been watching some of his videos. The validity of the truthfulness of the Christian God. Weirdly enough, he even concedes sometimes that even if the Christian God is not real, it is irrelevant. He argues. How can that be the case if he believes that God is the necessary thing for everything?
Well, in the things that what was it the rooms that they were doing every other Sunday, Warren and I were involved in them. I haven't been involved with them for a long time, but Randall had started them, and or Randolph had started them, and Jack Burton was on there, J.L. Warren was on there, I was on there, Amy Newman got in there for a while, and T-Jump. And it was over on Discord. And at one point, several times, this woman came in, and she's kind of notorious. Peter knew who she was. She's kind of notorious over in the UK. She's arguing the same thing that Wilson is. She would come on there and be like, "This is why society needs Sharia." She claims that she legitimately believes this. That we need Sharia law, even if you don't believe in Allah. And when people are like, do you believe in it? She's like, it doesn't matter. Even if it's not real, I think we need to impose this on society because it creates a patriarchal society that benefits everybody ultimately in the end. She just wants some kind of weird return to some kind of like patriarchal, arch conservative culture and society that's going to be imposed regardless of whether you believe in the foundation of it or not. That and if Wilson has made that argument, I think that's amazing because it's like, oh, okay, so this really is just surface level stuff for Wilson. Like, oh, this is a way that I can tickle my fancies about authoritarian right-wing politics, claim that it's justified because it's grounded in Orthodox Christianity or the greater Judeo-Christian cultural heritage, whatever that means, because that changes depending on which guy you're talking to. And then just push that forward and say, no, it's a steamroller. This is just inevitable. This is how society is meant to be. Like they can't ground that. They can't justify that.
Well, no. Well, he also doesn't even try to. Like, if you watch the entirety of the debate, you get into where, like, after Matt leaves, right, and they probably go like, "What do we do now? let's go to questions. And it lasts quite a while, because if you see where it is in the video that you're showing there, like they're not that far into it. They still have a long way to go, and he gets raked over the coals pretty good throughout the question period. Not that it affects him in any way, because he's just like, fuck these guys, they don't know. But he gets so much into this, sexism and all this other stuff. And look, it's like, patriarchy is better because reasons and all this other stuff. And I'm reminded of the philosopher John Rawls, The Veil of Ignorance, right? So Andrew loves it because he's on the side he wants to be on.
Yeah.
He's got a dick, and he wants the freedom to swing it around and tell women what to do as he swings it. But it's like the whole idea of the veil of ignorance. When I'm not telling him, it's something everybody doesn't already know, but it's like it just doesn't work. And coming from me, like, I'm married to an unbelievably smart woman. Like I've said to many people, my wife's one of the smartest people I know. And it's just stupid to think that, it's like, women, and he gets into this later in the video, women, kitchen, barefoot, pregnant, homemakers.
Yeah.
He actually basically says that same shit.
And then we'll make the justification. Well, if you do this, you'll be happier. And it's like, Andrew, we have demonstrable proof that when women were, even when they were working hard to conform to that norm, were not happy. They reported that they were unhappy. It was found out, later, it's just demonstrably wrong. The interesting thing about him trying to insist on this is, like, these guys will kind of engage in this magical thinking, like, well, if you just conform to it, try it, it might be uncomfortable for a while, but eventually you'll see. And it's like, okay, you can acclimate to a lot of things. You can condition yourself towards a lot of things. But what you're talking about is, like, if this is supposed to be the benefit that you mean, this should not be something that after years and years and years of women being in this role, they hit the age of 50 or 60 and they look at their life and they cry because they didn't get to do the things that they wanted to do. And the reason that they didn't was because they held themselves back while society was holding them down and told, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to improve your intellect. You need to take care of a husband. You need to have a bunch of kids and raise them. They're going to go on and have these kinds of meaningful lives. And then eventually they'll leave the house and you're going to be left alone to age out in your twilight years. And that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah.
And
you don't need no school. You're smart enough for a woman.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing is, like, the circumstances surrounding that. What about the people that can't have kids? This isn't realistic. It's not a realistic use of the woman's time to just be a homemaker for her guy.
Yeah, and it's funny because my mom, that's what my mom was. My mom was, quote unquote, Susie Homemaker. And then when my dad was 50, he had essentially a crippling heart attack. My mom had to go back to work. Otherwise, we would have been living in a fucking cardboard box in the street. And, so she was happy to be at home, and then she was happy to take care of us. It doesn't always work out, you fucking sunshine and rainbows. And maybe Andrew's, Andrew, like, if asked the question, right? Well, my mom did it. She was perfectly happy. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just anecdotal. And if it's not anecdotal, like, what about my mom who was unhappy for years? Like, well, she was doing it wrong. Or
Exactly.
the no true housewife fallacy. It's just like, well, she'd be happy if she was getting it right. Maybe her cookies sucked. Like, bro, this sounds like the kind of thing, like, like a Stepford Wives. Oh, well, if you're bored in the afternoon and all your chores are done, just start drinking wine at around 1 p.m. Like, oh, okay, alcohol will help make it better. Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Muad'Dib? You mean the Quetzal's Haderach? Yes.
Yeah, he mentioned that before. I said, but what about the sentient godworms? And then I responded with Shai Halud. Anytime somebody brings up a Dune reference, a Shai Halud.
What does that mean? What?
It's basically like a I think it's like a term of endearment for the, like, Allah be merciful kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Or Allah is merciful, something like that. It's some kind of like it's something like that.
Gregory asks, why are you guys even trying to rationalize Wilson's point in the debate when he's a rage baiting troll? MDD is a horrible platform that enables trolls for engagement from clickbait and super chats. I agree with the second part. I'm not trying to rationalize his points. I'm trying to rationalize why he's wrong. I mean, I think that he is on the face wrong. And the reason I'm covering this one,
He's as wrong as 2 9-year-olds fucking.
exactly. The reason I'm covering this from the perspective of Pine Creek's reaction to it is because while I think Wilson is obviously a rage baiting troll who is almost always demonstrably self-contradictory and irrelevant and absurd, Doug is willing to justify his points. Doug is willing to sit there and rationalize Andrew Wilson's points, even though they fundamentally disagree, at least in terms of their kind of approaches to things. Obviously, I mean, he's a skeptic. Wilson is a conservative Christian, but when it comes to this kind of cultural Christianity stuff, where there's the overlap, Doug is willing to start to rationalize Wilson's approach. I mean, we kind of see this right now. His entire approach to this should be getting criticized by Doug because it's a complete waste of time. He has completely failed to present a case for why Christianity is a superior ethical foundation. The only thing that he has done is attack a straw man of what he thinks the secular humanist position is, which is based on things he's heard Matt Dillahunty say in the past. So his foundational understanding of secular humanism is anything I've heard Matt say in the past that I disagreed with, made a laundry list of that, and then presented that as icky, weird, and strange, and therefore Christianity is better by default. Based on this approach, logically, if he's going to say secular humanism, he's not making the case that Christianity is the best. He's making the case that secular humanism is the worst, and by that extension, literally any alternative would be better. And to your point, Jay, when you said at the beginning, is like I'd rather people believe in at least proclaim a God that they don't really even believe in. That's exactly the problem with what he's doing. It wouldn't matter if they were presenting Christianity as the stance, just as long as they're a theist with some kind of self-proclaimed performative faith tradition.
Yep.
That's a bullshit position to take. And it's gutless. It lacks testicular fortitude.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Just don't allow your 9-year-olds to fuck. And don't wear women's clothing, guys.
It's not fake it till you make it. It's fake it until you've broken every alternative. And then when yours is done, it's correct by virtue of you've stood the test of time and eliminated any oncomers, or at least strawman them, impugned their reputations, lied about them, disgraced them, humiliated them, etc. Basically, that's what he wants to do. Anybody that disagrees with Wilson, he wants to insult and drag through the dirt. And then once he's done that, he can declare victory and then by extension say, mine is the best position because look at how I pwned that guy. Trolls when, everyone else drools. This is a massive problem for this entire approach.
Andrew, let it go. Go back to talking to OnlyFans actor.
Wilson needs to go back to community college if he even attempted that. Yeah, Greg says Matt has a short fuse and intolerance for trolls, and Wilson exploited that, but still looked like an asshat. It just seems like a waste of time giving him any mention, regardless of anyone else. Yeah, but I don't think that you can Wilson. Yes. But I think in terms of trying to write off this entire, Wilson's not the only one trying to peddle this bullshit. And like Darth Dawkins, Wilson is he is pushing out a completely flabby, lazy, unhinged, undisciplined technique for engaging in public discourse about any kind of serious idea. And then when he gets called out on trolling, his reaction is to giggle and laugh about it and essentially snicker and go, "You mad, bro?" That's all he's doing. This is a popular thing for a lot of people to be doing in online circles. It's extremely popular amongst young men, especially if they trend conservative, especially if they're getting into manosphere bullshit like Andrew's in, and especially if they're leaning towards being Christian. Because for some strange reason, Christianity and toxic conservative manosphere culture are holding hands and maybe kissing, sometimes in public.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
right?
a step too far.
And how can you prove one or the other wrong? Is really difficult. Basically, for this side, for what Matt has to do is just cause doubt that this God even exists. would be the root of the issue.
fact, I would say not reproducing is the worst possible thing for human flourishing, because if there's no humans, how do you flourish? So I guess
Yes, Ash, I did talk to Andrew. Ironically enough, I think Andrew likes me, and I kind of like him.
No,
I agree with a lot
no.
of things he
Get
says.
that dog off your leg. Get that fucking dog off
I
your
do
leg,
think
Doug.
secular religion, secular humanism has become
Now
like
your
a
thumbnail
religion,
is making more sense,
especially
Jeff.
in the United States. I'm against that.
Yeah, the pooch. Yeah, the dirty gray dog that Doug is holding
Mhm.
up, and no,
Yeah.
that's Andrew Wilson. Oh,
that's, in essence,
oh God, he's kind of wearing a shirt. Well, it's a black shirt, but it kind
step
of looks.
one, I remain unconvinced. Step two, I need to be convinced, so I am no longer unconvinced. And
He's got
step
that gray
three,
hat.
but God not real dough doesn't matter here. I've already granted it to still demonstrate
Oh.
just how stupid this ideology actually is.
Interesting. He's granting God's not real, and saying secular humanism is still stupid.
That's the one way that he fails.
I like it.
His position was
Why?
to defend his position. The position that he took for the debate was to give why Christianity is better.
It is the best, and
Is
it's
the best.
and
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it was like, which one's best? Okay, if you can approach that a couple of different ways, if you're going to set it up, one is to compare and contrast with the two options that you're given. The other is to provide a strong case for why Christianity is better. I think the stronger case to make is to say Christianity is the best foundation, best ethical foundation, independent of comparing it to a bunch of other ones, because you're going to get into the comparison later. But he's basically admitted it doesn't matter if Christianity's better. All I know is that secular humanism is the worst.
So it's
That was-
interesting here. I had to take a more like my more hard atheist stance here. If I was going to do a jump inside of Andrew's head, my thought would be, fuck, Christianity as a better system, that's completely indefensible. So I'm going to put that aside and just attack Matt. And then my position is easier to defend when Matt gets pissed off and starts attacking me.
right.
Because Christianity as a better moral system is fucking indefensible.
Yeah, it's just imposed. It's just you assert, you have to insist, like, this is good for you, trust me. And it's like, but it's not. And not only that, it's not a monolith. And that's the problem with this kind of debate to begin with, because if you're trying to say which of these two, Christianity and secular humanism, which one is the superior ethical foundation for society? With secular humanism, you can actually go to the group and kind of take, and for the most part, I don't know that there's a lot of disagreement amongst groups of secular humanists, maybe tiny ones, but for the most part, the actual organized group of secular humanists have a charter that's existed. I think they've had three that, the original one and then like two amended ones. I don't know when the most recent one was done. I think Dillahunty mentioned it in his opening, but you've got that group. So with that group, you kind of have, okay, this is their take on an ethical framework. Let's examine that internally. Then there's the quote unquote Christian one, which varies, because Andrew Wilson's, it's interesting. I don't know that Wilson is the only way that Wilson could be considered being fair here is that he thinks that, all right, if Matt Dillahunty is willing to take on and defend the secular humanist position, that means that he's a secular humanist. And I'm defending the Christian position, so that makes me a Christian. That means I can present what I feel real Christianity is as in his head, as a representation of what Christianity is for all Christians. It's the true Christianity. That's going to include things like the anti-trans stances, the homophobia, the bigotry, the misogyny. And it's like, not all Christians are in league with that. But Wilson is presenting it uncritically as if it is. So he's not actually presenting the Christian worldview. This is my opinion about why secular humanism sucks, therefore I win. This is a complete failure from the jump.
But I don't know if he realizes, but even the theism that he was talking about, where somebody could just believe that even if it were false, and that would be better than secular humanism, accepting that into a culture would be what secular humanism allows for.
That's exactly, but that's, yeah, secular humanism allows for that kind of belief. It doesn't eliminate people like, oh, if you're a theist or a Christian or a Muslim, if you have an extremely devout cultural component to your faith tradition, secular humanism doesn't care. Secular humanism's emphasis is going to be like, yeah, that's fine. You've got that thing. You need to keep that area of your life that needs to be protected and defended and cherished or whatever, but that's for you to do that. Other people are going to have different things that they emphasize amongst their community. When it comes to living in a pluralistic society, how do we establish laws that allow all of us to get together? And basically the approach is, are we all treated equally under the law as citizens? And that's kind of where most secular humanists that's usually where they start and stop. And that's the big distinction between the secularism and, like, we want to keep this stuff separate from people's faith traditions because there's lots of them. Everybody has an asshole. They all stink.
Yeah.
And Wilson
Andrew
seems to be
doesn't
like,
give a
no,
fuck about that.
mine's the best one. I'm right. And everyone needs to line up with me.
Yeah, and exactly, and it's especially good for Andrew because he's Andrew. If Andrew was Andrea, I don't think he'd like his Christianity so fucking much. But because he's a male and he gets to swing his dick and get the women to conform to what he thinks society is supposed to be, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and as far as he's concerned, like, hey, I don't care if you are faking it in terms of your allegiance to God or your belief in a God. Andrew wants is two things: be on team something, be on team theism, and agree with me. That's it. Which is great because all he's doing is inviting in a group of people like, oh, I don't actually have to go to church. I don't have to worry about theology. I don't have to study. I don't have to worry about what biblical scholars say or Hebrew scholars say or Muslim scholars say or any scholars about any religion say. All I have to do is basically be like, yeah, I think there's a creator God. And also I want to listen to this guy virtue signal and troll OnlyFans women and successful women in the workplace. I just want to listen to this guy virtue signal to authoritarian males who most of them are incels. They can't get dates. They're frustrated. They can listen to Andrew talk about why society sucks and why these woke women who should be baking them cookies are actually laughing at them and don't want anything to do with them because the last thing that they want is a pet human. They would, if they're straight, they would like to actually have a guy that is their equal, not somebody they have to be a caretaker for. And a lot of guys, I'm sorry to say, are looking for a woman to be their nurse and their mom. It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, I turn into a whiny bitch baby when I'm sick. Like, I mean, who's kidding who? And then I'm glad when my wife's around to take care of me because I'm.
In my household, that's flipped.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that's flipped. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I am terrible when I'm sick. I'm a horrible human being and everything else. But no, it's interesting. And Jefferson, what you said about the whole kind of incel thing, I don't know, but because Andrew's hand is blurry in this. But I wonder if Andrew is single. Like, that would be fascinating to know because I'd love to be the stick up ring cam in his house, watching how he interacts with his wife based on his public persona.
Well, and this could be like one of those things where
I think he would have more bruises if he had a girlfriend.
The video that they caught of Steven Crowder talking with his pregnant wife on the patio. Like, he's clearly he's just a verbally and emotionally abusive piece of shit. And video caught him having this conversation with her. He's like pissed at her and trying to guilt trip her because she's pregnant and won't handle medication to give to their dogs that pregnant women aren't supposed to handle. And he's just like, what the fuck ever, do your wifely duties and put that pill in Fido's mouth, kind of thing. Like, he's just being a piece of shit. This gets found out. And the one thing that I think is interesting, if you watch it, the camera is just a ring cam or whatever mounted in the corner of their house looking down at their patio. He sounds like he's having a debate with somebody online and he's talking with his wife. So I don't know if he's just always been that toxic an idiot or if being a toxic idiot for money made him that way with his wife.
Actually, in reality, Andrew Wilson has a very domineering girlfriend, and this is how he gets out to vent. This is her letting him off his leash.
I totally,
This
I can see that. Like right after this was done, he went back to his hotel. The escort came over, and it was a high heel to the back of the neck, trussed him up like a bull. What do you call me, Mistress Painful? That's right, bitch.
I'm so glad you're not 9 years old. I'm sorry. The 9-year-old thing is just fucking hilarious.
Well, no, the funny thing was that the safety word they agreed on was Dillahunty that night.
Nice.
With that, I'll yield my time, and I'm happy to get into it.
Yeah, I bet you
Hey,
are.
James, I just sent you a message.
Here we go.
All right. We are going to kick it into an open discussion. So 50 minutes and let's kick it.
No, I don't think so.
What?
I'm not going to sit here and dignify the preparation that I went through
No,
and what people were here for.
You're so indignant.
Keep interrupting me.
Yeah, this is kind of shitty.
if I remember correctly, didn't Doug go back and look at this again? Like, because this is like the first time, because this is near the end of this show that he did.
No, this
I
is
thought he went back and he
did. He did
he
that.
looked-
I've got another. I said that at the beginning. There's another video queued up
Oh, okay, sorry.
because he's gonna start making mistakes here, which I've acknowledged that he not only does he make, but he acknowledges later.
I am.
Okay.
You're so indignant.
Would the moderator like to step in so that I can finish what I'm saying?
Please, Matt. Please. How dare someone have an opposing worldview?
I'm not going to sit here and dignify what was supposed to be a debate about Christianity versus secular humanism, which one's better for the world,
Yes.
with someone who clearly showed up with an agenda that has nothing
Yeah.
to do with that.
I just laid
Someone who refers to
This is
trans
Andrew being let
people.
off his leash.
Yeah, because he's already grinning because he knows he won. Right? He thinks that this is a win, which is funny because it's like, look, if you're gonna if you're gonna have debates with, if I were like, I agree with what Dillahunty did here. I don't know that I only would have stuck around long enough to be like, okay, to point out like, okay, everything that he
Or
did.
shoe. I'm sorry. I just read Bond goes, I wish a drink had been thrown at some point. I said, or a shoe.
Yeah, the thing to do, I think, and like, I mean, it's up to him. He was paid to do this, but let's play this part out and then we'll comment after.
as deranged lunatics who will self-terminate if you dare to question them.
How am I wrong, Matt?
Self-terminate.
Someone who
Andrew
misrepresents
with the
a
woke
quote
terms.
from a debate where I said I would.
I don't think it's important for Matt to go through like this, like to try to like, I made notes of some of the more outrageous things that Wilson said. The
Yeah.
most outrageous thing that Wilson did was come here,
Yeah.
was to pretend to be a debater, because he's not. He's just a rage baiting troll. And that's what I would have been like. I'm not sitting with this guy. The guy didn't even represent his side. He just said, I equal secular humanism, which equals icky, confusing, gross, and therefore I win. How was that better for society? That's all Wilson did. And I'm like, yeah, I already won the debate.
I don't know why he's just not happy that they're not 9-year-olds. Fuck it.
Yeah, and what's so funny is you can see it, particularly how it's paused here, right? You see Andrew sitting there, like the only thing he's not doing is pounding his chest.
Yeah, he's so happy that this is going to go out. People are going to, and he did seem kind of enthusiastic about the fact that once it was done, like, I mean, these guys are like, oh yeah, he won because Matt, like, I don't even know where that comes from. If somebody wants to end a conversation or end a debate, that doesn't mean that they lost. What's interesting is that in terms of actual like technical forensics, if this was being judged by technical debate forensics, Wilson already lost because he didn't do the job.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff.
Just be no contest.
Well, yeah, but that and the fact that he completely blew up, like I said at the beginning, he automatically blew it up because he's trying to like say that, well, secular humanism is all about basically promoting what is a clearly a lie, and then has no problem with the person holding to a lie when it comes to a theistic position.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just like the whole thing is just funny. It's like I can imagine. I guess what I'm thinking of is all of the people that Andrew told, about this debate that could watch it live, and now he's sitting there posing, like, look, guys, here's where the libtard cuck takes off.
Yeah. Fenton brings. I don't know why Myth Vision went on with Andrew and Dyer. It goes nowhere. Did he go on with them at the same time, or were those two separate shows, Fenton? I didn't know that he ever had them on. That'd be interesting. I'll have to go into Myth. I don't get notifications for Derek's channel anymore. And I need to get over there and take a look at some of the stuff he's done recently. Those tables are WWE.
Fenton Mully said it's the court. Fenton said it's the court scene from Idiocracy. Jesus.
I'm looking to do some representing up in here.
Wouldn't make a law about 9-year-olds having sex being legal with respect to the 9-year-olds. Not that I was in any way in favor of it and that I was actually opposed to it, which I addressed during that debate. But moreover, this is not remotely an honest interaction on the front of whether or not secular humanism is valuable. Because this, when he presented his position here, has nothing to do with secular humanism.
Oh, Matt. Okay. Let's assume Matt Dillahunty is 100% right. That whatever Andrew just said, and I think I played half of what he said.
Doug's got his thinking hand going.
Let's assume Matt's right. Give your position, Matt.
This is where he's automatically wrong here, right? Like this is what I mentioned before, and he acknowledges this. Doug acknowledges this the next time he covers it because he thinks this is Dillahunty's opening position. He doesn't realize that he jumped in on this, that he jumped in, that Wilson went second.
Oh, oops. Yeah, that's
like, why don't you give your position? He doesn't know that Matt already presented.
Yeah, Matt went first,
talking about secular humanism and put it in context. And when you see them when you see Dillahunty's, like Dillahunty presents secular humanism's position on ethics, morals, what's good for society, yada 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 yada. And then you get into, and then all of a sudden it's a whiplash moment when Wilson's just like, yeah, well, Dillahunty said this, this, and this. He's crazy, right? Icky, gross. Ew, Christians are better. His takes are awful. If that's secular humanism, miss me with that shit, bro. Mic drop for the win. You mad, bro? That's all he fucking did for the entire thing. Like, he lost. That was not an opening. He completely fucked it up. If he had presented this in a high school, if he was debating high school students for their forensics and presented this in writing as the opening for a debate, first of all, I don't know that for them they would have even gotten into something this broad. But let's say that they allowed it. He would not have gotten any. They've been like, this is not an opening statement. All you're doing here is implicitly attacking your opponent based on previous things they've said and implicitly conflating
and who they're dating.
And who they're dating, and conflating their personal life and previous statements with the position that they present in their opening, and rather than providing an introduction for why Christianity is best. You haven't presented that. You've completely failed. He would not have gotten on the stage at a high school level doing forensics with this kind of work. This would not have.
Yeah. It would have been, it's like everyone is dumber for having heard what you said here today. I award you no points.
May God have mercy on your soul.
Exactly. That's what it would have been.
Yeah.
You're 1,000% right. He would have gotten nowhere. And it is interesting because had it gone the flip side, had Andrew gone first, Matt wouldn't have said shit. He just would have walked off.
Yeah. Yeah, if it had just been that, Dillahunty would have been like, okay, he didn't present anything, so I'm leaving. The only thing he wants to talk about is
me.
He doesn't want to talk about Christianity. He just wants to talk about how wrong he thinks I am.
Doug can't. But that's the thing. Doug can't. He's not supposed to be talking about Christianity.
You mean Andrew can't?
Or Andrew. Andrew can't. He can't promote Christianity. He can't tell people why it ought to be the case.
No, hang on. There's a distinction. In Orthodox, there is a distinction. He can talk about Christianity. He can't engage in apologetics. There is a difference. He can talk about his personal salvation. He can talk about his testimony.
Why get into? Okay, so then he obviously knew that he couldn't talk about certain things, but he agreed to put Christianity up as the pedestal. Agree with this conversation where he would support the Christian ethic versus Matt Dillahunty doing the secular humanist ethic.
That's not the worst part of what he's doing.
Oh, I
worst
know that.
worst part is the double standard that he's putting out
Oh
there.
yeah, I
I can't
already
en-
know that.
I
Yeah.
can't engage in the technical apologetics that my church would normally get into to justify my stuff, but I will virtue signal to conservative Christians
Yep.
who already agree with me. And then when skeptics raise issues about it, I'll then accuse them of being groundless and not having justification for their views.
Yep. Yep.
It's
And it's just
like, yeah,
and
he's like
and be
sprinting through
perfectly and
every
be
double standard he can
and
find.
then virtue signal about how secular humanism is promoting dishonesty and lies, and then telling people, but it's okay if you believe in a God that we all know to be false.
That's a lie. Yeah, it's okay
Yeah.
if you believe in a lie, but don't engage in these lies because icky, weird, gross.
Yep.
Mic drop, I win, you mad bro. Yeah. Also, girls, make me a sandwich, get them shoes off. You know what I'm saying? He's a piece of shit. And if he is married, like somebody mentioned in the comments, I pity whomever or whatever he is married to.
Yeah, and again, yeah, I just have to second that. Like, if he is married, fuck, I hope he doesn't have daughters.
Yeah. Yeah. Good God.
You can just ignore Andrew. But instead, what I think Matt's about to do is be offended to such a degree by Andrew's statement
Nope.
that he's going to up and leave.
He
rather
is,
than
but
just
that's
give
not
his
what his threat
position.
was. Doug actually missed in context the first thing that Dillahunty said. I'm not going to justify all the prep that I did. He said that because he already gave his opening statement. So
Yeah.
Doug's already wrong from the jump, and that's because, and he acknowledged this later. Oh, I didn't realize this, but this whole tack on, I was like, this still isn't justified. His Dillahunty's central point was Wilson didn't actually present the side that he said he was going to. He's just he made outrageous statements and then connected them to me and things I've said in the past.
Yeah, and I think it should be said that like Matt didn't leave simply because of what Andrew said. He also left because of what he didn't say.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so yes, the things that Andrew said were offensive to Matt, especially given who Matt's partner is. But also his view on how we view society and well-being and all those other things. But it's like, so it's not yes, but it's yes and, right? So yes, that's no good. And you also didn't address what we're supposed to be talking about. So he's not going to move. I mean, if they were going to start a conversation based on what Andrew said and what Matt said, they'd always be talking past one another.
Yeah. And Andrew Wilson makes it a point to maintain that trajectory. He will always talk past a person, especially if he's concerned that they're getting close to making a good point that refutes him. I just watched a clip of him doing this with a person who is a Christian and probably conservative, and they were disputing like whether or not Wilson made the claim that Jesus actually hit people in the faces with whips in the story of when he clears out the temple. And this guy brings up, when does it say that?
It doesn't.
And Wilson's basically, well, it said he made a cord and then he drove the people out. How do you think he did that? And like, and the guy makes the perfect, like, I can wave a gun at people. That's very different than shooting them in the head.
Yeah, exactly.
And Wilson pretends not to hear that point. Like, well, he just continues like, well, I think you can read into it. Like, you really want to read into the Bible? That's called eisegesis, Wilson. If you understood biblical scholarship, you'd know not to fucking do that. You can drive. If you go nuts in a public place and start waving a whip around, you don't actually have to hit anybody for them to scram. They're going to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things that's noteworthy is like, so you could also say that like in the time, like even as Matt's trying to give a justification as for why he's about to peace out, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like Andrew is guilty of that thing, you know. It's like that saying that I've used several times with others, and it's not my line, right? But it's, you know, like, did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours? Nobody can get a fucking word in edgewise with this guy, because I think, and you alluded to this, and I think it's 100% correct. If he hears something that is about to make a point, he's not going to let that shit stand. He's got to jump in to derail whatever it is you're saying.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have an answer for it. Like if someone makes a salient, coherent point, like all he can say, like you said, secular bad, Christian good, ooh yucky.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
This
muted.
is why I espouse the doctrine of be more dead inside. If Matt was like me and a little more dead inside,
Jesus Christ.
This doesn't matter because he already gave his opening. So he's already like, look, I just gave my opening for like 15 minutes. And then this guy comes in here and like a vulture pukes on his feet. That's all he did.
he could just
They shit and piss on their,
Let it
they
slide.
crap on their
Say,
feet. They
"Oh."
don't puke on their feet.
Or whatever it is they do. I know that they just, yeah.
Andrew Wilson is a schmuck. He didn't come prepared. So be it. I'm going to give my spiel of why secular humanism is better than Christianity. in
Turn your
terms of
brain off. That's my
motivations.
doctrine.
It kind of is. I've made this point before because Doug is of the school of thought that emotions are secondary and second class to thoughts. What he doesn't understand is that the latest research holds this up. We feel first, we think second. Our thoughts are based on us processing emotions and feelings. We're feeling stuff all the time. So this idea that like thoughts don't care about your feelings, like feelings are, your thoughts are a reaction to and a reflection on the feelings you're experiencing all the time. So you can't be quote unquote more dead inside. That's equivalent to being stupid.
What are we on fucking planet Vulcan? Like, this is
Well, and they think that's what it is. They think like, oh, well, I want to be clinically detached from it. It's like you're not being clinically detached from it because that's not how your brain works. You are like he does like he'll admit I do these shows for the dopamine kick. Exactly. So that doesn't sound like you're exactly dead inside, does it, Doug? If you were dead inside, you wouldn't be doing YouTube channels. None of them would have an effect on you. You wouldn't engage in any of this stuff. You'd look at like person A made statements, person B made statements. I disagree with both person A's statements and person B's statements. End of video. Like and subscribe or don't. That
yeah,
I
like,
mean,
yeah. It's crazy. Like in what I do, it's like if somebody said to me, "Oh, I try to detach my thoughts from my feelings," I would probably recommend them to a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
Because that's that's fucking psychopathic.
Yeah, and it's one thing, like these guys seem to think like, oh, if your feelings are deep or you get passionate about something, you get worked up. There's a difference between letting your emotions get out of control or feeding your emotions and just going on a rampage and being quote unquote dead inside. It's not an either or thing. You don't shut them off. You don't keep them in a corner. Not only that, you don't control them. You have to reflect on them and watch for them. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that like, oh, well, you just don't get mad at them. Like, that's not something that you can help. What you can do is notice yourself getting angry and then sort of like, with a little mindfulness, kind of take yourself away from that and be like, yeah, I'm getting pissed off at this person. Do I walk away from this conversation now? Or can I kind of keep that anger in place and then maybe just concentrate on what's really being said? Some people are very good at compartmentalizing that in a healthy way. What Doug is often feeding into is a stereotype that, no, you need to squash those feelings down, be a man, and present a stoic, inflappable, indefatigable front. Like, no, you don't. You don't have to do that. And I'm sorry, Spooky, I have been streaming a lot lately. This is good. Spooky just showed up here, so this is. I've streamed enough this past week to put a chink in Spooky Bedhair's otherwise online omnipresence. Like normally he's just everywhere all the time.
He's been slowing down though. He's been missing some steps there, Spooky.
Yeah, Stephanie writes he does it because he's quote having fun. Right. That's not dead inside. That's he's clearly enjoying himself. He's feeling his feelings too. And he would acknowledge that. He's doing it for the kick. But then he turns around and does this thing, well, you just need to be more dead inside in these kinds of debates. Like I mean, I agree that you need to take a breath and stay calm, but the idea of like somehow controlling your emotions from the jump is not controlling your emotions, but somehow like kind of canceling them out. That's not something that you can realistically do. If all Doug is saying here is like you need to just kind of keep yourself under control and stay calm, yeah, totally agree with him. Telling people you need to be more dead inside, wrong. If you're dead inside about it, if there's no passion, you're not going to be interested in engaging in any of this anyway. And if you really are dead inside and lack passion and you engage in it anyway, you're probably not going to bring much interest to it. It's going to lack testicular fortitude or just gumption. I like the word gumption.
Good word.
Grit.
and that be that. But Matt Dillahunty can't do that. It's not in his DNA. Maybe I shouldn't blame him if it's not in his DNA. He cannot, his programming is such that he cannot dignify it with a response.
He's providing a response right now. Actually,
From the
responding to most-
get-go, it's all about me. Matt thinks. Matt thinks. Matt thinks. I'm giving what Matt thinks. What Matt thinks. What Matt
Matt's
thinks. What
position.
Matt
It's
thinks.
Matt's position.
I
It's Matt's
came in with
position.
the secular humanist man.
Yeah, he's even admitting it. Haha, it's Matt's position. It's Matt's position. Matt took the position of the secular side for the purposes of the debate. That does not mean that everything secular humanists ascribe to is Matt's position. There's a difference. He took the position that secular humanism is the best for society.
And he's demonstrating, again, going back to that high school debate shit, how he would fucking fail at that. Because again, if you remove Matt and say have someone like Doug read what Matt wrote, he's got nowhere to fucking go.
Yeah, exactly. Because he came with a list of everything that Matt. Well, that's Matt's position. I equated them. I've conflated them. Therefore, yeah, prove me wrong. Yeah, and he's got the most punchable fucking face.
Yeah,
Look
see,
at that
what
guy.
I'm gonna say is this might be shallow, but like with the look on Andrew's face right now, all I want to do is slap him in the face with an Oscar Mayer wiener.
No,
This is the kind of face that if women see this in the bar, this is the scaring the hose smile.
guys,
This scares the
you gotta-
hose.
What you do to someone,
or
what you
scaring the
do-
maidens, if you prefer that expression.
what you do with him is you do what Milkison did as that news mogul in the Sherlock series, BBC one. I want to flick your face.
Flick your face.
You just stand there, and I'm going to flick your face, and you're going to stand there, and you're going to take it.
He's so proud of himself. Look at that face. He's so proud of himself.
Oh yeah, he looks like the cat that just ate the canary.
I don't
Yeah,
want
that
to.
was an
I
old
don't
one,
want to
right?
speak for all straight women, but I'm thinking like this is the expression. If you make this in the presence of women, half of them will stand up and get the hell out of there. The other half will be like, I should
Yeah.
probably find something else to do.
Somebody should put it like make this a meme and say the face you make when you realize you just got blown for the first time.
Well, maybe half the women are saying I should get the fuck out of here, but 100% of the women are covering their drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was just going to say the same thing, but I kind of held back on that one. But no, that's fair. Like, are you?
I don't hold back on anything, Jefferson. You know that.
You ever see those? Have you seen those now for they sell them now for women who are going to the clubs? They're like a silicone they're like a sippy cup.
Yeah,
Covered.
with a hole for a straw. Yeah.
Yep,
or something. Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
He's got a face that dries women up like a sandbox. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he got the reaction he was looking for from Matt. Congrats, you own the lib, you effing pig. Thank you, Maya. And good to see you, Maya. All right, let's
Was that her
manifest-
editing? Was that
Huh?
her like censoring her fucking?
Yeah, because it helps the, it helps the, if you have live chat replay on, which I usually do for my videos, if you kind of self-edit your swears in the live chat, it kind of helps keep the YouTube whatever the spirits or whatever they are, the fates,
Oh,
from like seeing too many naughty words in the chat, and then
If that's the case, then what I have to do is, Jefferson, I have to take over your stream for a second and use it as a platform to apologize for every live chat I've ever been in that I have never censored myself in one fucking iota.
I don't expect people to do it for the most part. And it actually recently hasn't caught. They've lightened up on the covering a lot of this debate stuff, and I think with some swearing, as long as you don't drop F-bombs within like the first 3 to 5 minutes of the video, you're usually okay. And then after that, as it builds in, because then that's really the trick. But there's other hidden things in there as well. But no, I don't really worry about it that much. If it does become an issue, instead of having a green $sign on the video in my studio, it'll be like a yellow one, and that just means it's limited. And I'll be interested to see if it gets marked for that, because it could happen for anything: length, comments made verbally, or the topic that we're covering. The fact that it's even just the fact that I'm replaying some of Andrew Wilson's comments could get the video not demonetized, but like what do they call it? Kind of constrained for ad suitability. So yeah, it is what it is. If you put two swear words together, the algorithm gods yoink your comment from the chat. Yeah, I've heard it's been doing that too. Like, and in some cases, if there's too much profanity in it, or even if it's like 2 words or more, if it sounds like a rant, it might show up here when it's live, but it won't come back on the replay. It disappears. I've heard that. I can't.
But what if you type it in? But what if you type it in here and then have it when it posts on YouTube?
What do you mean if I type it in here?
You know, because you can participate in the live chat now through StreamYard.
It doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
based on what it's based on what gets saved and played back.
So if I write,
and again, I don't know if it happens.
So if I put in "fuck the fucking fuckers," that'll get yanked.
Well, that just got yanked, you moron.
I'm sorry. Quote. Fuck the fucking fuckers. Oh, and Ozymandias is here.
Hey, Ozzy, good to see you. Yeah, if you're interested, Ozzy, in the whole debate, because I'm kind of, like I said, I'm sort
Debate.
of inceptioning.
It's loose. That's loose.
Yeah, but still, I've kind of inceptioned the commentary here because I'm watching it from Doug's reaction and initial reaction when he heard about the controversy that Matt leaves this discussion. But in the description of this video, that first link in there is the modern day debate link to the full exchange if you want to see it all in context. So yep, it's there. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it. If I don't know, I think if Ozzy watched it, I don't know if Ozzy would really care about it because they don't like this. Really doesn't get into anything that's kind of in Ozzy's wheelhouse, at least stuff that he's approached before. But he might be interested in it. I just think it's a great example of watching somebody be really sloppy at a debate, get platformed by modern day debate, which I really think James should not. If he's gonna like, it's one thing to platform people that you disagree with. It's one thing to platform idiots that don't know what they're doing. And then the takes that Doug has had on this, the amount of leeway he is willing to give Wilson is incredible to me.
It is interesting though. I should say though, like in defense, I guess in somewhat defense of James, if you watch the entirety of the debate on MDD, you'll see how afterwards James lays into Andrew pretty good, talking about it, like saying, you know, like, I'm a fellow Christian, what you did here wasn't good. So he does call him to task a little bit. But I agree with Jefferson what you said about it whole being kind of like being kind of loose, you know, if you want to call it a debate. Yeah, it's like hot dog down a hallway loose. It's not a debate.
Algorithm, Michael. Algorithm.
Sorry. I will test this theory for you, Jefferson.
I love it.
Single-handedly.
Michael and I get Jefferson's channel completely demonetized.
That dollar sign just went to red right in front of me. I'm kidding. I can't see that.
And hey, Ozzy, how you doing, my fellow Canuck?
This is the reason the rest of us were so mad that MDD allowed this to happen. Yeah, and I mean, I kind of, the thing that I don't understand about, and this isn't really, sorry about that, I didn't mean to highlight that, bro. Is that, like, I don't know, I don't want to criticize James.
Well, I don't get, just to interject here, I don't know why Matt didn't do his homework on this guy before agreeing to do this debate.
What bothers me, because James set this thing up and he invited people down here, and this was one of many matchups. Like Leo Filius had a debate with Eric Hernandez. There were a lot of people meeting in Texas for this modern day debate, you know, kind of WrestleMania thing that James wanted to do, which props to him for setting it up. He paid Andrew Wilson and Matt Dillahunty. I think he paid maybe most everybody, but like he paid some headliners to get in there. So a lot of this is agreed for the spectacle. And I don't really necessarily have a problem with that. But if you're putting yourself out there as something like modern day debate, I think that the way that James does this on his show usually is like, hey, here's the topic. We're going to throw two people together online and they're going to rip and run with it. And he's had people like, I don't think I've ever done it, but maybe I did do a modern day debate. Like guys like Praise I Am and stuff like that multiple times. Those guys can't present an opening to save their life, right? If it's his live stuff, I get that. But anybody that can evaluate, like even the stuff that MathPig used to do for his, he's like, I'll host your debate, but here's the thing. I want both of you to prepare your written openings, and I want you to send them to me. And then I'll take a look at them, and if I think that they're good, I'm gonna give some feedback and criticism if I think that if one of you is just attacking the other, etc. If you're engaging in the kind of shit Andrew Wilson's doing, I think James should be doing at least that much. I think he should do that on his online show. If he doesn't want to, that's not up to me. If he just wants to let people rip and run, that's cool. That's up to him. But if he's doing this kind of thing, a big deal setup where he's going to have them show up and debate in person with an audience, make it a big deal, get it filmed, put it out there. I think that I think he should have held everybody there, including Matt. He should hold them all to a higher standard. And I don't see that he did, especially with Wilson here. He definitely did not.
It just reminds me of like when the whole debate, this whole debate thing, sometimes I get a little tickled by it, because I remember like I go over to Praise I Am's channel and there'd be Gavin Herleman, let's do a debate. And I'd go in there. I was like, well, let's talk about it now. And he's like, oh, no, you're not getting on a debate. And I'm like, wait, you think we can only talk about this if it's a formal debate? Yeah. I'm like, oh, I see. Because that's where real men are forged. On the crucible that is MDD.
Yeah. Guitar Dog writes, the takeaway from this debate, Matt will now study his opponents before he debates them. See, this is the one thing, the one valid criticism I think Doug could have brought up here, because it was my question about the whole scenario.
Well, the whole thing is that, remember, because since he made the mistake already of thinking that Andrew went first and Matt hasn't gone at all, that's the problem, because Matt mentioned that in the opening. He didn't know anything about Andrew. He didn't know what his Christian views were, any of that. That was when Matt gave his opening.
Yeah, well, okay, and I thought that they had an interaction before. So if that's the case, then there's not too much to research, and it wouldn't matter, because he could make the argument, well, hey, I'm not going to go and watch this guy's stuff on YouTube and not kind of knowing in advance, I'm going to disagree with this guy on a lot of stuff about politics, philosophy, obviously about theology. But I'm not going to watch all that to kind of prejudice. I don't need to know that going into this debate. What I need to do in this debate is I've taken this side. Secularism is the best ethical foundation for society, and I'm going to present that for the sake of the argument. And then this guy, whoever he is, because it does sound like Dillahunty didn't have a run-in with him before. Whoever he is, I'm kind of expecting, and I'm hoping James is expecting, the audience is expecting, that he's going to present the Christian position on this. And then Wilson shows up and does this. So, yeah, I think in that case, that would have been my only question, and my only criticism is like, okay, if Dillahunty was aware of Wilson, knows what he's like, knows what he talks like, the idea, then he could have been like, look, I'd known about this guy for a while. I've watched his interactions with other people, and I was concerned that he was going to do this with his chance to do an opening, and he did it. So I'm going to go, because this guy can't debate. He couldn't even write an opening. So I'm going to go. And if that's Dillahunty's stance, if that was, because he made that kind of point, but then he goes into like highlighting the outrageous things that Wilson's saying. I don't think that part's necessary, because the people in the audience can kind of take it on themselves, whether or not they think what Wilson is doing is gross or stupid or cheap. He can just be like, look, this guy had one job and he failed. So yeah. I'm not going to engage in a crosstalk with him because he's completely off base. So here's your money back, James. It was great seeing you. I'm going back to Austin, And hell, maybe this was in Austin. I don't know.
No, I think this was up in Dallas.
Oh, they did it up in Dallas. Yeah, they may have.
I think this was up in Dallas. Yeah.
Bond. These debate me bros make me laugh often. Yeah, they really do. I'm surprised that at his age that he's still Dillahunty is still doing this, especially with as worked up as he gets, because he's the kind of guy, this has been mentioned, he's the kind of guy that yells at video games still. At his age, he still gets worked up and will yell if he loses at a video game. Like,
really?
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like 54 now. I'm like, if you're still like that, I mean, and I'm sure you know, I'm not judging him. You know, everybody gets pissed off at video games, especially when we're younger and things like that. But it's like if you still get that worked up about it, you know, deep calming breaths, count to 10 and 20, you know, whatever you got to do. But in this case, if people are trying to make this the equivalent, like Dillahunty is freaking out and losing his cool and rage quitting over.
Yeah, and that's the
Pokemon.
interesting thing is how people blew that up. And I'm like, have you guys not seen Matt really lose his shit? Because this is not Matt Dillahunty losing his shit in any way, shape, or
No,
form.
Dillahunty can lose his shit Broadway style.
Yeah.
He will go off like Vesuvius. The idea that they're like, oh, you know, and the interesting thing is they're like, oh, he rage quit, he chickened out, he couldn't handle the heat, he was too triggered, bro. And it's like there's a difference between getting triggered, storming out of a place because you can't handle it, or taking a principled stance and being like, I'm not participating in whatever carnival this sleazy lunatic is bringing. And that is, I kind of agree with Matt in that seems to me, that's my impression of where Matt's coming with this. Matt is offended about the things he said. He's offended about where he's directed them, which is at Matt and at Arden, Matt's partner. But those aside, Wilson is a sleazy lunatic who brought a carnival barker show to a debate, which is the equivalent of bringing this was supposed to be a duel. Pistols at dawn. He brought a rubber chicken and a whoopee cushion.
That's exactly that's how I show up at every duel, Jeff. What are you talking about?
That rubber chicken came out of nowhere. Yeah, Fenton says, wow, I didn't know Arden was there. Andrew is extra douchey then. Yeah. And yeah, he's saying that because I mean, he genuinely does. I'll hand it to Wilson. He's an equal opportunity offender. He'll, you know, it doesn't matter that like, and he strikes
Maybe
me
that's
as,
who he's smiling at in the audience right there.
well, he's smiling up, yeah, because he thinks this kind of attention is good. But he reminds me of like any of the hate preachers, like the ones, you know, like that one guy, blanking on his name, but he had the
Steven Anderson.
Steven Anderson, yeah, the one down in I think he was in Arizona and or in Texas.
Sackcloth and Ashes.
Sackcloth and Ashes. That guy is an absolute lunatic, but he seems like he'll tell people, you know, straight to the face, like, no, you're gay, you're going to hell, you know. He doesn't care if you know he takes a punch, but then again, he's also on so much cocaine he wouldn't feel the punch. So there's that. Nicola writes, it's like MDD started off trying to have interesting debates and went to trying to bring back internet blood sports with the appearance of structure. Yeah.
So I came in with positions that aren't just
Let's hear them. Matt came in with positions. Let's hear them. Just ignore.
He gave him.
You can at least make an opening statement.
He did. Poor Doug. He's like he's
Matt.
just that aren't merely my position.
Oh, well, as long as multiple people hold the position, it
This
makes it
guy's not
valid.
serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you
Well,
let me know.
good day, sir.
just in case you didn't, just because you needed Andrew Wilson to help make Dillahunty's point for him, he does. Yeah, good day, sir. Aren't I clever? Like, no, you are not.
And it's interesting.
Oh,
The hard part
okay,
is when you listen to Doug give his review on this, I feel kind of bad because it's like the kid who wrote the book report on a book he didn't read and gave it to the teacher, and then was asked to talk about the book. And it's just kind of because he's, you know, like you said, Jefferson, you know, went back afterwards and corrected the fact because he didn't know that, you know, Matt had gone first. But I just feel kind of bad for Doug saying, well, you could just give your position. It's like, oh man.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of sad. He's like, oh, he's going to walk out and not even really give his opening statement. Like, no, Doug, he already did. He already did it. Fenton says that unfortunately Andrew did noticeably gain followers from that. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but you know what was interesting is after that he dropped his channel. He turned off his channel. He hit it.
Which one? He had at least two.
The actual Crucible. He didn't take the channel down, but he hit all the content. He hit all of it because he didn't want any backlash on his comment threads. And then after
he didn't want the thumbs downs or
yeah,
stuff
he gave about 2 or 3 days, and then he put all the stuff back up. Yeah, he basically went into a whole cooling off period. Because I mean, I think I had some of his some of his subscribers commenting on the video that I did, and some of their comments were, "Oh, just awesome."
But yeah,
Just some of the best human beings you could ever find on the fucking on YouTube.
Stephanie Reds, it's back up, so it's on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
No, he has repeatedly taken that because he's got the Crucible, the main one, which he set up as kind of like a competitor to MDD. But then he had another one which was like, you know, his side one. That one he has taken down, and it has been taken down before.
It's the Crucible Light. The other channel that other channel is for if the Crucible gets struck, because the Crucible has been actually struck and suspended. So he created another one so that if you look, those videos are quite older. So there was a period, I think, where he either his channel got suspended or something like that, or he got strikes or something like that. And so he used that other channel until everything was fine and hunky-dory with his other one, and then he went back to his original.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing from this interaction back and forth is it's only a certain amount of time before, because remember, Jefferson, how you had said, because I wasn't even aware that Ding Dong had a YouTube channel at some point and then it got taken down. So what I'm hearing from this is it's only a matter of time before his channels get taken down and he shows up on Clubhouse.
Well, Clubhouse is changing into some kind of weird Snapchat kind of thing. So I think what will end up happening,
Or Discord then or something.
He'll go back to Discord, and I think that's where he came from.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I think he's got a Discord channel, and he kind of burbled up from those stinky depths. No offense to people who enjoy Discord, but Discord is a bit of a toilet bowl.
Yeah, he goes by something. I think that's him. Something Shapiro, Zen Shapiro.
Oh, I've seen a Zen Shapiro on
that. I believe is Andrew. That is Andrew Wilson.
Interesting.
Unless I'm mistaken.
No kidding. I've actually I have chatted with him. Then he is a moron. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that is him. Maybe it is. That's interesting. If anybody wants to dive into that, Spooky would know.
Sick 'em.
Yeah.
They get paid. If you want a refund, I want to know how much they get paid. Maybe I'll start doing this if it's a lot of money.
I'll cover your refund, Mr. Matt.
He just said he'd cover my
I
refund.
would cover his refund.
No.
Nope.
Okay, so Zen.
No,
may
I'm
not
not
be-
gonna
Zen may-
dignify
Yeah, like I said,
it.
I thought that might be the case. I wasn't sure.
It's trash talk people. And be
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to dignify trash talking.
smug and
Smug? Smug?
He is smug. I don't know why Doug has a problem with this. Andrew's smug.
Matt, you've never been smug. I've been smug. You've been smug. Andrew's been smug. What does smugness have anything to do with it?
the things that he's being right now. He's already said he will cover my expense. You don't have anything to worry about. This debate is over.
This is okay. Point of criticism here for Matt. This and in the heat of the moment, he probably wouldn't have known to do this. I would have been like, okay, he's offering to cover my fee. That's not necessary. Here's what I'm going to do. You let me know. I will refund the money because I'm the one leaving the debate. If Andrew wants to cover that for me, and he actually is good on that and ponies up the cash, maybe forward that along to me. But I'm not holding my breath. Ta-ta, bye. You know that because there's no way Wilson would have covered it. There's no way. Wilson was complaining. This was interesting.
I think he did. I think when Doug had a conversation with him, he told Andrew told Doug that he covered it. He paid it.
Okay, well, maybe he put his money where his mouth is. But Doug was talking about at the beginning of this that he was talking to Andrew. Andrew flew down to Texas, right? And I think the ticket may have been on James. James may have paid to fly him down there, right? So he gets down there, and I don't know if this is the first time Andrew's ever been to Texas or what, but they go out to get dinner. And he's thinking, I'm in Texas, we're going to get dinner. I'm expecting like steak or ribs because it's Texas. And James is like, hey, you like Subway? took him to Subway. And the reason that they believe that he did that is because James has a great big back tattoo of Subway. He has a Subway tattoo on his back, a massive one, and he won some kind of contest. He gets free Subway for life.
If true, that is truly hysterical.
And if I were
Oh.
James, I would have kept that secret and then been like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I paid you $1,500, Andrew, but I'm going to take out the $1,350 that you racked
Yeah.
up in Subway. I'm gonna prorate that out of there. Like, wait a minute, wasn't it free to you? Well, that's not the point.
That takes them.
Just because it's free for them
if-
doesn't mean it's free for you.
If
or free
James
for me.
actually did that for free Subway subs, that with that intent in mind was to win this contest, so he could get free subs for life.
Yeah,
That is a bold leap.
if anyone is doubting this, if anyone's questioning this, all you have to do is like where I started this video at, and you can kind of see it on the status bar here on the screen. Go back just a little bit before this. There's a part because earlier on he's showing James talking to the channel or talking to the audience before they turn the cameras around, and he's talking there, and Pine Creek's like, yeah, so you can see the James back here. He's wearing his sport coat and stuff. He's like, if you were to take that off, he's got a massive Subway tattoo. So I don't know how Pine Creek heard about this. More than likely, James has shared this with somebody. Andrew knew about it because Andrew was talking about it. Like, yeah, we ended up going to Subway because James has got free Subway for life because of the tattoo. So, like, I don't know why on earth you would get a mass. That is so weird to me. But then again, I did know a guy that I worked with he was a recent hire at the company, used all of his initial leave, his initial annual or sick leave or whatever it was. He used it so that he could stay in line at a newly opening Chick-fil-A because the first like 30 people or first 5 people or first 10 people to be there for the opening would get free Chick-fil-A for like a year or two. So he used up like all of his initial time off leave. And at this company, we're only allowed to use authorized time off leave. We're not allowed to like take time off unless it's for a medical reason, FMLA or something like that. You can't just take time off and not get paid for it. It's not that flexible. But he did that. He used up all his leave. And then because he was out in the elements waiting to get Chick-fil-A, and free Chick-fil-A, unlimited free Chick-fil-A for the rest of the year, he got pneumonia.
He got pneumonia and then he had to eat fucking Chick-fil-A.
He got pneumonia and had to eat Chick-fil-A, and then he went into basically a leave deficit, which it causes problem. It can cause like personnel issues. Those are marks against you, especially when you're in your probationary period. And yeah, eventually, I don't know if he quit or got fired, but it was the most amazing. I'm like, why? I don't know why people will do this kind of stuff. Like, you just got hired into a pretty good company with pretty good benefits. You're in your probationary period. You use your initial leave to stay up all night at a Chick-fil-A. Like, what the hell is wrong?
Hey, to be fair, Chick-fil-A's got some awesome breakfast sandwiches.
Well, and here's the thing: like James got an entire tattoo on his back of this. How much Subway does he have to eat? Because I mean, it's evaluated. You had to send a picture of the tattoo that you got, and then Subway judged it and was like, "Yeah, you were the first to get it, or you got the best one, or whatever. Cool, we can see that you got the tattoo." How much Subway does he have to eat to justify the cost of that tattoo?
All of it forever. But not all of it. Like, he just 3 meals a day, 365 days a year. But no, it's but think about the whole thing, like the person you were talking about from work. It's like if I hired someone that said, "Oh, by the way, you just hired me and I'm going to be doing this," and be like, "Good, don't come back." Consider your first day your last day. Bye.
Yeah. I would not. That tat is bizarre. I would not want to be associated with Subway. No way. I hope that is true. Fences. James shows it on an after shows for likes. Maya sums it up perfectly. If someone offered me free Subway for life, I'd give it back.
You see, it's funny. We don't have a lot of options for different sub places here. Like Quiznos here. I think Quiznos went out of business. It went out of business here. We have Subway, and then we have one here. I think it's only Canadian called Mr. Submarine. But other than that, you just have to go to like small specialty places. But yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I had Subway. It's got to be.
I thought Subway is like the most aggressive franchise chain because they're everywhere in the U.S. at least. I don't know if I'm sure franchise regulations are slightly different in Canada, but yeah, they made it very easy for a lot of people to kind of buy into them and open them. And there were at one point in my folks' hometown, which has a population of just not a lot. It's like between 8 and 12,000 people over its history. I think 12,000 at the most at one point. They had at one time, I think, 4 Subways.
Yeah, the only prerequisite for franchises in Canada is you have to offer maple syrup as a side to everything.
I thought you were going to say poutine, but
have you guys ever heard of Port of Subs?
Nope, never even heard of that.
Okay, so when my wife and I took a road trip from California back to Michigan just this last summer, we made the mistake of stopping at one of these places. Normally set up in rest stops and like gas stations, big gas stations. The worst. They make Subway sandwiches like they're gourmet.
Ooh.
That's how bad Port of Sub. Like the bread literally tastes like cardboard. It has no flavor to it at all.
Bias. Everyone should have unfettered access to a big city's Little Italy. Best sandwiches ever. Agreed.
Yeah, I gotta say, I gotta call out Bridge the Divide here. He said something about blimpies. I don't think we should fat shame here.
Anyone remember blimpies?
Fat shame.
I think there's blimpies up in the frozen north. I think we have one.
I've never even heard of it.
Nicholas, set aside the cost of getting the tattoo. The reward is getting put in the same box as Jared.
Oh, hey,
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but I was like, nah.
I'm thinking of having my Jefferson Spatchcock tattoo removed. I thought that you were thinking about that when you realized I was never going to go through with that OnlyFans channel, Spooky. All right, here we go.
Bye. Goodbye.
Good day.
jackass.
Trash talking. Jackass.
In my opinion,
There's
Matt's
no way.
at least Matt's being straight up, compared to Andrew here playing passive aggressive bitch boy.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the way his hands are resting on the table. Like, this table is mine.
He's
That's
man
to
spreading
keep
with
him-
his hands. Yeah.
Michael, that's to keep him from stroking himself because he's got
Oh,
a
there you go,
boner
okay.
right now.
Is there a tablecloth there? I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it's
I
covered.
don't know. He's pretty. He's pretty close to that table.
When he lifts his hands, though, the pool of slime underneath is probably
Yeah, and
unbearable.
it looks like there is a tablecloth on it. So yeah, it's a black one.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah, I think it only has 3 buttons undone. I think to be a real man, you have to go 4 buttons undone.
Mhm.
No, he doesn't.
And you
get
need it,
those.
and you need a gold chain. He's not. He has no style. And a ball cap at his age. Come on,
and indoors.
Maybe he's
Indoors.
bald. Maybe he's
Take-
bald.
I
No,
don't
he's
think
not.
that he. No, he's
Nope.
not. Yeah, he's got sleazy hair.
Or maybe he's got Pine Creek's plugs and he wants to hide.
He's got the slick back Guido look going.
Nice.
Firehouse. Everybody's talking about sandwich. Everybody's getting hungry. Okay.
Oh, hey, now Firehouse we just got Firehouse not too long ago.
Firehouse is pretty good. Penn Station actually is a really good one. I've only had people have offered me like a slice off a party sub kind of thing of them, but those ones are actually really. I don't usually go in for subs. Sandwiches and pizza for me are always boring. If somebody wants to offer me a sandwich, favorite chicken shawarma wrap with extra garlic sauce. That's my thing. You can miss me with subs and pizza, hit or miss. But yeah, Penn Station subs, as far as a chain goes, and I don't know how big they are. Those ones are good.
Yeah, those Firehouse subs, those are real popular down in North Carolina. I've never.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They're all over the fucking place.
Stephanie points out he's got the shades in his cleavage. Yeah, he does. At least he's not wearing them. They're not the Oakleys on the back of the head.
Does he really? He does have
Yep.
shades. That's right.
They're right there. Yeah, he's got his sunglasses.
In case he starts realizing how bright his future gets.
Dildo Baggins, we might have different Firehouse subs because ours are nasty. That it seems to be one of those chains where it can vary, like, which is weird because like I think
Oh, it
Subway
can-
used to be like that years ago, but
it can
Subway's
vary,
pretty
all right.
standardized. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. So he
This is
stormed
so
a-
much fun. It's so childish. It's fun.
See, this is the thing. I don't think that Dillahunty's really being all that childish. He did obviously get angry at that. I mean, he's called him a jackass, which, let's be fair, Wilson, there's no way Wilson's offended at being called a jackass. It's probably happened since he was a kid. It was probably his parents' nickname for him.
I love this country. Only in this country would people pay money to set up debates like this that end up not happening. And then, I mean, it's just so much fun.
It gets views. JL says, you ain't lived or loved until you've dug into a 5th Street St. Louis style pizza. I've heard of that place. I don't know where I've heard of it, but I've actually heard of that.
I've never heard of that one.
And I would be curious to try it.
I guess we need to thank Matt for walking off and providing this.
What
type
is
of
a St.
entertainment.
Louis style pizza? I'm gonna have to look that up now. You guys do your thing.
Well done, Andrew Wilson. Well done.
Why would you say
No.
Yeah.
No, Doug, no. Don't
Yeah.
reward him.
But what's interesting about that is you could say, okay, I'm going to be incredibly charitable to Doug here. It might be fair to say, because if I was like any debate that I've ever done, I try to do my homework on the person I'm going to be talking to. So you could say, if you wanted to be charitable to Doug, maybe Matt should have dug into Andrew a little bit to see exactly what he was getting himself into.
Yeah.
And that might have netted no debate at all, right? Oh, so I've looked at half a dozen debates that this guy's done. Like I was telling Jefferson before he went live. In my YouTube algorithm popped up a debate between Andrew Wilson and Skylar Fiction, and I watched that. And
That's a shit show.
And I had actually super chatted on that. I had forgotten all about it until the person reading it says, Michael, the Canadian atheist, said for $5 went blah blah blah. And I said something about him failing his Christian obligation under 1 Peter 3:15. And I was like, wow, yeah, I am familiar with this particular scumbag. And it's interesting because, like, having seen that and having seen this now, and I said to Jefferson again before he went live, I had sent a message to James saying, hey, I'd like to get back into your, stream of things if you want to have me. And I said to Jefferson, if he reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to debate Andrew? I'd be like, no fucking way. Wouldn't waste my time.
Do you want Andrew and I to talk past each other until Andrew starts yelling at me and calling me a woke cuck? No.
Yeah. And I'm the worst kind because I'm a Canadian cuck. Like, that's the
exactly. Yeah, it's like a national standard for you guys as far as Andrew's concerned.
Yeah. Or
Dustin,
if we did do a debate, I'd want to do it live, and I'd bring down some Canadian geese and have them beat the shit out of him.
That would be hilarious. You show up for some reason dressed like Father Christmas as
That
well.
sounds like insult right there. You haven't lived until your boss brings you a Little Caesars pizza 3 nights in a row when fixing a company ransomware issue.
And I'm just going to say, if that's life, I think the living would envy the dead. This Little Caesars is, it's not the worst, but it can be.
Oh, it's bad. Horde of subs bad.
I think the 3 worst are Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Little Caesars, at least in terms of like cheap, flat, pizza. But it depends on what you get. Domino's, there's a little bit of wiggle room depending on the toppings. Little Caesars, if you get a Supreme and it's fresh, it's almost, you can kind of choke it down. Pizza Hut, as long as you avoid their weird ass raw mushrooms, which is absolutely fucked up. They're dry. Still, like, I don't know why they do that. I think they still do that. Yeah, all those are gross. And for whatever reason, Pizza Hut has like a shitload of margarine in the crust. It's not butter. It's fucking margarine. It's nasty. Ugh, Pizza Hut sucks.
So Jefferson, what you're saying is the next time I come down to see you, we're not going to go to Pizza Hut?
That's the very first place that you're coming to is Pizza Hut. In fact, you'll know if I really didn't want you to come down or visit. I'm like, hey, so Pizza Hut? And you're like, you could just ask me to leave, Jefferson.
Exactly. You could just say fuck off. Like, you could just say that right out. Like,
you don't have to be so passive aggressive about it.
You've won the debate by not even having to debate.
Again, Pine Creek is under the assumption that Matt didn't say a thing other than this reaction, so he's still kind of like, well, Andrew Wilson won
In the dark.
Like, no,
I wonder how a debate on this topic would work with me.
poorly. It would work poorly, Doug. I am going to stop that one, and let's see here. I'm going to share out the other one. Oh, so I think it was in this one where he mentions the tattoo. Actually, not earlier in the one I was talking about before. But yeah, this is the one because he shows this footage at the beginning. And now I've kind of fast forwarded into it. I probably will a little bit, but if you go, this folks, and I'm correcting myself now. The part where he talks about the tattoo on James is this part here because he acknowledged when he sets this one up for this, and we're probably not going to watch the whole thing because it's a decent runtime. It goes from here over to here, and I don't know if we have to cover the whole thing. Actually, it just gets in the comments. It goes to about here. This is where he acknowledges that he wasn't aware that Matt Dillahunty had an opening statement and already gave it. So he acknowledged that at the jump, he was assuming things, blah, blah, blah. And then he mentions that James here has the tattoo. And so I think he's going to talk about this, and this is the opening. And I don't know how much of this we need to go through. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Oh, it is sped up already. Okay, perfect.
Humanism has as its focus the betterment of humanity in this life, while Christianity has as its focus adherence to a God and the disposition of souls in an afterlife. Our best efforts in this life are, according to the Bible, like filthy rag. Our best attempts at righteousness and justice are portrayed as vile and disgusting when compared to a bumbling God constantly failing to get his creation to love and respect him, while also prescribing the death penalty for nearly everything: adultery, blasphemy, breaking the Sabbath, disobedient children, witchcraft, worshiping another God, not being a virgin on your wedding night.
Yeah, see, I'm even getting tired of this rhetoric because most Christians today, I'd say most, they would just say, "Oh, that's the old covenant." They'll use that excuse, or that's not the way it is anymore. Jesus didn't repeat those things.
What? Pause that for a second. What's interesting is Doug is actually making Matt's case for him right now. The differences in, because I actually got one of the things that somebody wrote to me on a comment thread was they were complaining about how Matt attacked Mike Johnson when he uses Mike Johnson as an example of a guy who holds to Christian morals.
Ostensibly, yeah.
Yep. And then you've got these other Christians that are going, well, we don't hold to that. And now Doug is doing the same thing. He's doing it right now. That is exactly Matt's point, is the inconsistency.
Right.
That's the basis of Matt's opening.
I didn't play this in the last one, and maybe I should have played that. I don't know if it did get played out in the original one. I guess even Pine Creek thought Wilson's parting shot was a bridge too far and might portray his fascist buddy in a bad light. So 2 points to make about this comment from Stephanie. One, she's right. The parting shot that Wilson made was to say something about say hi to your husband for me or something, referring to Arden, which he's misgendering Arden and being a dick. The other thing too, I don't know that, and maybe people in here do know, I don't know that if Arden and Matt are even technically married, so Wilson's just not even being accurate here. He's just being gross just to do it. So he leaves that as a parting shot and then kind of laughs at himself. And then I think Dillahunty makes some comment about like, well, at least Jackass was accurate, which is true. Because if he's trying to say that Arden and Matt are married, that's not accurate. And also, if they were married, Arden would not be Matt's husband. But then again, he'll also like incorrect. It's amazing to me that these guys hate pronouns, but they love misusing them. When pronouns can be used to misgender somebody, then they're great.
Yeah.
they can trigger people. But pronoun, this pronoun usage, trying to tell me what you want your pronouns to be is stupid. I'll decide for you what your pronouns are, cuck. Like, yeah, fuck off. But the other thing that Stephanie points out, the fascist buddy, this dude has gone, Andrew Wilson has gone by the name Big Papa Fascist, which I think is supposed to be ironic fascism, and I've mentioned this before. I think trying to be an ironic Nazi is probably worse than just being a Nazi. Because if you're a nationalist and you want to purify your world and everything, like, you're clearly a moron and a hateful bigot, but at least you're straight up. If you're trying to be cheeky about it, you're a fucking that's just like, I want to be that guy, but with a sense of whimsy. Like, I thought you didn't like drag. What are you doing out here? Lunatics, liars, morons. That's all of Andrew Wilson.
But it makes them feel so much better about themselves. No, you got to be dead inside. God damn it! What have I told you about your feelings?
Yeah. So thanks, Stephanie, for presenting that. Yeah, no, she's absolutely right. I think the parting shot might have been in there. Doug may not have gotten to it, but I did see it in another clip, and I apologize for leaving that part out. Even though it's just Andrew misgendering Arden, in a really petty shot too. And what's interesting, this tells you.
Hold on, but it was very progressive to think that Andrew could think that another man could have a husband.
Yeah, so it's progress of a kind. Yeah, that's not the problem. Yeah, he has no problem with two guys being married. So he doesn't realize how far along he's been pulled into the progressive wing. Two guys married, that's fine, but the trans. Miss me with your pronouns, idiot. No, the point I want to make here is that the fact that, and thanks, Stephanie, for highlighting that, because he made that comment about Arden. That did not get highlighted to the extent that Matt walked out of this debate. And that tells you everything you need to know about this debate sphere, about the way that this, people will say, like, community works. The fact that Matt got up and it was then portrayed as not a principled stance against a lunatic that did not do his homework and didn't come to debate. He just came there to cast aspersions against Matt and the entire LGBTQ community, emphasis on the T part of that community. That's the thing that gets fixated on. Oh, Matt could have done better. Matt shouldn't have walked out. Matt was triggered, bro. Matt was this, and this. Not that Andrew Wilson is a transphobic, gender baiting, race baiting piece of shit. The fact that he just blatantly misgenders Arden, and she's there. Arden was in the room. She's right there.
Yes, yeah, I didn't know that.
It's like, oh yeah, Wilson pwned him, man. Like, Wilson's a piece of shit moron who engaged in, like, even if you didn't take Matt's criticism seriously before he stands up and leaves, even if you didn't take his points to heart, Wilson then provides a perfect example of all of the criticisms that Matt just gave. He demonstrates it in one perfect example. And everybody was fixated on Matt quit.
Yeah, but let's be fair, right? I mean, Andrew was just trying to be a whimsical piece of shit.
Right. It's the ironic Nazi thing. Like, yeah, aren't I? I'm such a scamp. I like to dabble in authoritarianism. Like, idiot, you're going to be the first one against the wall if you get what you want. There's always a bigger fish. The strong man ends up winning. You are not a strong man. You end up cheerleading for the one to get in there. They realize what a waste of time, aggravating, annoying piece of shit you are. They will disappear you. You will have to live in a bunker in Idaho to avoid the state you advocated for. Just like all the people that you wanted eliminated from your society, because if you can do that, you can get everything that you want. He is a complete dildo. No, I can't say that. Dildos are useful. Wilson is less than that. Yeah.
So it's irrelevant to Christianity, and that's the topic. Topics about Christianity. So even I, as an atheist, am getting tired of. Well, okay, but here's the caveat: Jesus is God. God is Yahweh. Yahweh is God. Yahweh is Jesus. So you could make that link, and I often do.
Which is better for society? Well, I'd say the one that has human society as its focus and isn't so intent on killing humans for not buying into a specific doctrine. Heaven and hell, if they were to exist, aren't human societies. What a God thinks is unknown and irrelevant. There's
I
never
agree.
been a secular humanist nation, either in a governmental form, which I'm not advocating for, or in a primary philosophical view of the majority of the population, which means we have to look at the ideals between these two positions. Secular humanism has been around for 90 years. In 1933, the first Secular Humanist Manifesto was published.
Manifesto.
It identified humanism as a religion with 15 points. It was updated 40 years later in 1973 with a lot more information. And then it was incredibly shortened in 2003. In addition to the manifestos, there are organizations like the Council for Secular Humanism, American Humanists, etc. In the first version of the manifesto, it's presented as a religious view where it acknowledges there's no supernatural guarantee of human value.
I would take that further. I would say
Oh, careful, Doug. Careful. It sounds like you're agreeing with Matt. It sounds like he's going to demonstrate here he's got a lot more in agreement with the secular humanist position and what Matt's presenting here than with Andrew Wilson, which was where he was at before.
there's no natural guarantee of human value. There's neither natural nor supernatural.
I wouldn't say that. I don't know that
You mean,
guarantees.
wait, no. He's got that wrong. I think he's looking for an objective value, like a value that's just innately there, and that's not, because people placing value on things is natural. That's a natural phenomenon. So, sorry, Doug, I got to disagree with you there.
Yeah, the idea that you're
I think he's looking more for the objective, like an objective value.
the idea of trying to establish value in something being established by a supernatural is an abstract that you can't really ground. You just say, oh well, God loves us or something like that, which is like, okay, well, maybe, but in the meantime, but you could also be, God loves me, therefore we should all get along. God loves me, some of you all need to go, like it just depends. It depends on how you translate.
80% of you have got to go. There's a form. You've got a form right there. You fill it out. Tell us how you're useful. If you didn't bring a pen, you're already out.
Yeah, you're already out.
Guarantee of human value.
We advocate a heightened sense of personal life and a cooperative effort to promote social well-being. The goal of humanism is a free and universal society in which people voluntarily and intelligently cooperate for the common good.
Now, keep in mind, for the purposes of his opening statement, Dillahunty is presenting this group's statement about themselves and the secular humanist position.
Voluntarily. Is taxation then a part of secular humanism?
Oh, for
Is that
Christ's
voluntarily?
sake, Doug.
With the threat
Jesus.
of jail time?
Oh my God. Is he serious? Like, he popped smoke.
Hey, Michael
Taxes
says,
theft. Oh.
Michael says he's got to bail.
Oh, yeah. Does he? Okay.
Yeah, he says he's got to bail.
Yeah, sadly, guys, I got to take off, but it's okay. This has been super fun.
That's funny. I didn't hear a whip cracking in the background.
I had it on mute, friend. I had it on mute. But we got to go out and get the whale blubber for dinner and stuff like that. So
Yep.
Oil for the lamps.
Yep, all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, can't you just send the servant geese out for that? I thought that's how you guys worked up there.
No.
Hey, Michael, send the Huskies my love.
Yeah. Have you not seen Canadian geese? We serve them, friend.
King geese. All right, Michael. Thanks for being here. It was fun hanging out.
Thanks
again.
for having me. Cheers,
Okay.
everybody.
Yep. Enjoy the cold. Stay safe. Stay warm. And say hi to your wife for me.
I will for sure. Cheers, man.
All right. Take care.
You
Have a
too.
good one. Yeah. Thank you, JL. Did you see how hard Doug had to think to bring it back around to himself? Did you notice? Speaking of how hard, did you notice how hard Doug got when someone said taxes? He brings up taxes like voluntary. You mean like the taxes they take? Like, oh my God! Like, okay, back off. Your rage boner is starting to. You're gonna knock me into the fire.
Not taxes. No.
It's just like, you know what? Like, gotta
That's-
let the economy rip.
That's
The
what did it.
ownership.
That's what did it. That's actually what did it for Doug in Christianity, is when Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." He's like, "No, fuck that shit."
Yeah, what Jesus never did in the Bible, no matter what any conservative says, he never once looked at an official straight in the face and said, taxation is theft, and then popped ninja smoke and disappeared. That's not ever something that he did. And yeah.
In the manifesto version 2, 40 years.
And this is kind of stupid in terms of talking about voluntary association in society, what's helpful or not. This is not necessarily how you establish a financial system for a government. Right? Like, there's going to be sacrifices that you make in a society. The voluntary part is to what extent are you being obligated into certain systems? Like, this is the difference between like the ethical framework and then the practical application of citizenship, its rights and its responsibilities. So I think Doug is already kind of like missing the point here, but because Matt's not going to get that deep into it, reading off, you know, the, the kind of like a mission statement of secular humanists.
Years later, this includes a lot more information. Short versions, they begin by saying those who sign this disclaim that they are setting forth a binding credo. This statement reaches for a vision in time that needs direction. We affirm a set of common principles that can serve as a basis for united action. This isn't a to-do list or a thou shalt not list.
It's not a thou shalt not list. Okay, that's good to know.
It's also a thou
Thou
shalt.
shalt not.
I'm
It
pretty
also doesn't thou
sure.
shall will either.
I'm pretty sure what I can see it already. What's banging around in Doug's head right now is these secular humanists will say, thou shalt use pronouns when asked. Thou shalt acknowledge the gender identity of others. I can see it clicking in. Like, no. These secular humanists, they're the ones that want to impose the woke ideology on some of us or all of us. So to what extent? That's why he's fixating on things like voluntary and freedom or liberty or any of these kinds of like, wait a minute, no. Or this, we're not trying to should you to death over here. We're not saying what you can and can't do. And Doug's like, aren't you? You want to cancel me for saying that I don't think doctors should be transing the kids. Like, no, what we want to be able to do is say, Doug, you shouldn't be in a position to make laws about trans issues because you think doctors trans, whatever that is. Thanks, DeSantis, for inventing a new verb, trans the kids. He sold that to Haley, Nikki Haley, in a debate. She sided with Disney and with a corporation that transes kids. Disney's making kids trans. Like, look, you can't. That's not how trans works. You don't understand what you're talking about. And I know Doug believes that. He thinks that that's part of the ideology for it. He thinks that you can talk somebody into it. It's why he's concerned about it. It's a deranged viewpoint. And I'm going to go out and double down on this. He's deranged if he still holds to it. It's a deranged viewpoint. If you understand what transgenderism is, even transsexuality, trans identity has nothing to do with someone making you that way. That is categorically not it. That's just not it. He's talking out of his ass. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Prevent a trans person from transitioning.
Boom. Nailed it. See where he went? I haven't even seen this part yet. He went right there.
Secular humanism doesn't say that.
We're fine with religion's inspiration, but we're opposed to dogma and authoritarian views that place anything above human needs.
Whoa. Opposed to dogma. That puts.
He's still equating what he thinks is a woke ideology with secular humanism would not really weigh in on LGBTQ issues other than to say it, for the most part, especially in a political sense or a citizenship sense, other than to say these individuals have the right to live their lives as they see fit and they deserve equal representation and protection under the law, same as any other citizen. That's about it. They don't need to have special laws placed against them or special laws removed from them or any of this other kind of nonsense. That's basically the kind of standard. And that's pretty. And now I'm going a step further in sort of clarifying a more hands-off, really secular humanist kind of take on some of those issues. Matt hasn't even gotten there. Doug's going the other way and reading in. No, I know what secular humanists are about. They're about that woke ideology, and they're about imposing it on the rest of us.
That's because that brainworm entered in when he started entertaining that Andrew might be onto something.
Yes, and others like Andrew. Yeah, and the reason that he's entertaining it is because he's inclined to believe that, because his views on LGBTQ issues are fucked up. He's ignorant about them, and he's accepted explanations and rhetoric from people who are spinning stories, often illogical and contradictory ones, in favor of actually recognizing what those issues are. Like I said,
do you think Doug's movie of the year is his current favorite movie of the year is Lady Ballers?
Wow. Why did you have to remind me that that exists?
That movie exists? Yeah. Oh, I'd seen that just earlier this week. Rationality Rules did his
Oh, his take. Yeah, yeah,
his
yeah.
review on it. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I mean, his review is pretty funny. The movie is a hate crime.
Is it above human needs? The question is, what is real human need?
Religions don't pass the test of scientific evidence. The
True.
promises of immortal salvation or eternal damnation are illusory and harmful. Ethics and moral values.
That's debatable. I agree that the concept of hell is harmful, but the concept of heaven gives a lot of people peace and a type of flourishing here on earth.
Actually,
Yeah, but you can't have the carrot without the stick, Doug. Don't you fuck that up.
No, well, that's
that
different. That depends on how the dogma is presented. But an
Yeah.
argument can also be made that heaven is actually intrinsically harmful because it provides a kind of a false hope that also can lead to entailments where it doesn't matter what happens to me in this life because I'm going to paradise afterward, and maybe I need to speed up my exit from this mortal coil.
Yeah.
There have been people who have taken those, and we can't pretend that that's not been the case. There are people who have taken that entailment and taken it to a logical place that gets a little dark in the name of pursuing the good place. So, or even the idea where you're like, what's necessary for me to get to heaven, for me to minimize the number of bad people on the planet. Then you're in real trouble. So heaven is often a harmful concept. Stephanie writes, people are free to be assholes. They're not exempt from being considered assholes, not welcome at the barbecue. Yeah.
Oh wow. I hope that I gotta go when this posts. I gotta go. I gotta remind that we're about 2 hours 35. Okay, I gotta make note of that because my wife said something in the background, and I want to go back and see if it actually came through on the audio.
It probably did. I think it did. I could hear her anyway. Maybe it didn't. Did anyone hear what Jay's wife said in the background? Thumbs up if you heard it, or I don't know how to say. Like, did you hear it and not understand it? Let's hope that
I'm just wondering
understand
what she said came through clearly. I mean, some people could say, yeah, we could hear her in the background, but couldn't make out what she was saying specifically. I want to go back to see if it actually came through.
You think that one of my
clearly.
fans, or one of my enemies later on is going to be enhance?
No,
Enhance.
not that bad. Not like a dox. Just
Spooky didn't hear it, so it didn't happen, Jay.
Okay.
Oh,
It happened.
This is disconcerting. Fenton says no, wink. He's going to be the one later on tonight. Enhance.
Enhance.
A hope.
Stem from human experience, and situational ethics stem from the human need and human interest. Reason and intelligence are the most effective instruments we possess. We are not advocating for the use of scientific intelligence independent of or in opposition to emotion, for we believe in the cultivation of
It says that in the manifesto. Emotion got anything to do with it?
Problematic. Doug's already. No, emotion. He's done this before. He's actually said this before in other things I've seen. Like, no, you need to get emotion completely out of it. You can't. I cannot argue. I cannot emphasize this enough. That is not something a human being can do. It is physically, logically, just as a species, that is impossible. The human brain has feelings, and our thoughts are intricately intertwined with how we feel, not only physically, but also even that we have thoughts about our feelings, and we have feelings about our thoughts. It's a crazy tight loop. The idea of divorcing emotions from your thought process is absurd.
I like this from Stephanie Helms. People are free to be assholes. They are not exempt from being considered assholes. Not welcome at the barbecue.
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah.
But Beth was saying something to you, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Tom says, I couldn't hear it. The sounds of the chains were too loud. Just kidding.
I think you might be referencing that old Cellar joke.
Well, no, I was going to say it was because your wife was coming at you with the chains. It's that time of day. Time to go into your cage, Jay.
That's the
I
problem.
thought he might be referring to the having her chained up in the
He is.
in my basement. Yeah.
He is. Yeah, Brohai mentions this. Even Stoicism has an emotional component behind its philosophy. Yeah, and Stoic philosophers even like it's not about lacking emotion. Barney Tierspell is a Stoic, and he used to talk about this all the time. It's not about being without emotion. That's a stereotype of Stoicism. It's a misrepresentation of it. It's not about cutting off your emotions. It's about learning from them and being responsible for them.
What the fuck?
And that's a good message. What?
They're bringing a second. They're doing a second season of fucking Halo. Sorry, that just popped up.
What
as
are you
another-
doing? What are you even doing here? I can just do this on. If you're going to look at like entertainment,
It just popped up as a notification. I thought that fucking show got canceled because I watched that first season. It goes
Jeez.
nowhere. It's a pointless show. Sorry.
okay, all right. Well,
Squirrel moment.
yeah, I was going to say squirrel much. Holy cow! All right,
Feeling and love.
Feeling in love. No.
those are
Not close.
meaningless. The only thing that you need is a sound bank account, a good digestion, and a wife that will will wash your floors. That's all you need. These emotions are useless to me. Like Doug is this is so creepy when he does this shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
feelings and love. What? No, I demonstrate my feelings and love by writing someone a check.
Actually, that's not that. I don't know if I don't know if I not agree with that. Right
You
there.
probably do, you psycho.
No, what JL just wrote. That's
Doug has lost.
what I was referring. No, not what Doug was saying. What Doug is saying is completely
Okay.
insane.
Yeah, his interactions are online, so he's disassociated from others. Yeah, I think he's right there, which is why I think it's important for me to do at least every once more often than not do a show like this where I ramble on for several hours with guests in, because it's basically the online equivalent of touching grass. It's not the same as getting in touch with nature, but
You should send a link to JL. I wonder if he would join us for this.
actually no, that's a good point since we're kind of at almost because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on here, but
Yeah, I'm not going to be on too much longer because Beth's almost got breakfast done. So
yeah, I was going to do that anyway. Let me see. With both of you in there, I'd kind of forgotten about it because 2 guests is usually enough. I'm going to post this link here. So the join link is in the chat, and basically the goal here is I'm going to try to highlight it. Why won't it let me highlight it? I was trying to lock it in. That's weird. It's not letting me actually like pin my own comment.
through here or on YouTube?
On YouTube, on the chat and YouTube. Yeah, I can't pin it.
Oh, that's weird.
I can pin everybody else's, but I can't pin my own. So I was gonna pin that up there. Well, it's in the live chat, folks. So if you want to catch it before it like scrolls away, it'll be on there for a while. But if anybody isn't, no pressure. If anybody's interested in jumping in to be online with us, go ahead. But if not, not a big deal. But it's there.
Individuals are precious and their dignity
Individuals are precious. Some are, some not.
is affirmed.
Conceptually, Doug. Jesus Christ, conceptually. You don't have to do.
Some people are not worthy of dignity.
Hey,
As a
Jeff,
principle, Doug.
Jeff,
Can you imagine having him around to write a constitution?
do you think? I'm just throwing this out here just for humor, but do you think like Andrew Wilson and Doug, when they watch The Boys, they think Homelander's the hero?
Wilson does. That is for damn sure. Yeah. Doug actually has a family and kids, so my guess, and Homelander's murdered kids, so yeah, maybe not.
I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. Like, yeah, you need to be destroyed. Like that needs to go away. JL is away from his computer, but he said
Yeah.
I'll try to make it if we're still on. So, and I might still be if I'm.
This is important. Us, human beings, affirming the value of individuals and human beings is more powerful than a God affirming it, and it's infinitely more powerful than
I
a
agree.
human claiming a God affirms this, which is all we appear to have.
I would agree with that. Well, actually, no, I don't agree with that last part. Because if someone is wrong about God existing, which I think they are, it gives them more gravitas. It gives them more oomph. My God says this.
But it's not more meaningful. He said it's infinitely more meaningful. It doesn't matter if it provides it with gravitas. That's bullshit. All you have is a convinced lunatic. I don't understand what point he's trying to bring up here, because that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I don't.
You have
Yeah, I
value,
don't
so
know.
you have value because my God said so. Now, I think they can be 100% wrong, and it still helps them to place more value on people. Does anybody
You might be right there, Dustin. That's more of a Soldier Boy fan. Could be.
disagree with that?
Oh
The
Jesus!
concept of God, like we're all created in the image of God, the Jews, Muslims, and Christians would say. I think as a default position, that does help them value people more. But then,
But it also allows them to devalue people more. This is the problem that Wilson has. This is the problem with Christian nationalism, and the same entailment that you can ride with. God made us all special, except for the reprobate. Let that ideology in there. Then there are those who stand against us, and because we are
Yeah,
righteous ones with God, they therefore stand directly against God. It is the righteous thing to do to eliminate those people from our presence, because it eliminates them from the eyes of God. You see where this goes. You can do the exact same thing in the other direction. You can use the same entailment to degrade everybody, and you can really do it if you're a Calvinist and you believe that everybody's evil from the jump.
present JL's recent comment.
Hang the fuck on. Doug is going to slight Matt for referencing emotion and then say a God argument can have gravitas. Is he fucking serious?
He got that double standard, didn't he?
Got that right.
I missed that.
Stephanie, good to see you. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you? It's a foggy day here on the coast of Maine, as you can see.
Well, the snow that hit us is probably on its way to you. I don't know if you guys are scheduled to get any of this, but
We got torrential rain, and it's blowing the dog off the chain right at the moment. It's really, really windy. And what's behind me is the entrance to Portland Harbor.
oh wow.
And you can't see a goddamn thing.
Yeah, jeez.
Lovely. That's like that's like the fog that we get in San Francisco sometimes. It's
Oh, the foggy coast of Maine is famous for fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, like, well, it's too bad you're getting all that wind. It really isn't all that windy here. And then a giant gust of whiteout just blew past my patio. Like, never mind. It's deadly here too.
hey, I'm gonna duck out, Jeff. I'm gonna put. Well, you're not now that you got Stephanie here, so she can co-pilot for you.
Yeah,
Breck-
I can sit here and laugh at my dear friend Doug.
We can both punch at him.
Breakfast is done, and Bethany is itching to watch something, so I'm going to take off.
Okay.
You guys have fun. At anytime you want to talk about or bring up something about Andrew Wilson, it's always good for a laugh. So
Yeah.
and I know for Stephanie, it's a great laugh whenever it's dealing with Doug.
I don't know if
the two of them are clowns. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and they it's funny. Doug's whole persona is rational, calm, blah blah blah, atheist. And I have a clip of Doug. Let me see if I can pull it up. I will, but I have a clip of Andrew presenting a definition of Christian nationalism, and Doug saying, "Well, if you put it that way, I agree with it." How many ways do you want it, mate? Let me find it. It's just astonishing.
If you find it, Steph, send it to me.
I got it. I got it right here. I got it.
But if you throw it in like the live chat, I'll grab it and I'll share it on here.
Yeah.
All right,
Does
I'm out.
StreamYard let you share it through mine? I don't know if it does.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. I just gotta find my your clips. There we go.
I was going to say before he's totally gone. Thanks, Jay, for showing up and hanging out. Maya writes, yeah, it's been really rainy on the East Coast lately. There were a few days last week where I could barely see buildings across the street. Yeah, we had rain here, but I'm in the frozen Midwest, and it was mostly in the Great Lakes. We had rain, but it was still warmer than normal. Had a little bit of fog, but not really. It was just gray, and now it's turning cold, and we've actually got snow. So the snow is actually kind of an upgrade for us because it's brighter out now. It was just gray
There you
and
go.
brown. Yeah, Steph, if that doesn't let you share it.
No, I'm sharing it now. I'm sharing my screen.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Add to stage.
Just tell me when to click play.
Go ahead right now. Yeah, go
To
ahead.
get rid of the stigmatization of Christians also being able to rule instead of just secularists who seem to think that they're the only ones who are allowed to rule.
You know what? Under that definition, I'm not against it.
To get rid of the stigmatization of Christians also being able to rule instead of just secularists who seem to think that they're the only ones who are allowed to rule.
You know what?
Oh, good
Under
Lord.
that definition, I'm not against it.
I guess you're not against being a Nazi then, Doug, huh?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, there's a huge problem then, mostly because Doug's not understanding that what Wilson's offering up is a complete bait and switch. Because the issue is like, if you're a Christian and you're representing people politically, you are supposed to be secular, at least in the sense that you're not putting your religion ahead of your duty to represent a pluralistic community. That's the point. And the fact that Wilson's like, hey, we just want a shot at running things. Like, no, you want a shot at running people over. That's what you want.
You want a shot at imposing your particular vision of religion on an entire nation.
Yeah, and the idea that like, it's
It
secular.
seems simple. Oh well, in that case, you know, I put it that way. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, when you put it that way, I agree with it. Well, now you've got that like tattooed on my brain. That's going to be there for a while. Thank you.
No problem.
Great. All right, let me play this a little bit more, and then I don't know if he gets back to. I'm wondering if he plays. Well, he does get back into goofball here. Let's do that because let's get back into the incendiary part.
See, Matt also just acts as though the things he believes are true.
Gay intercourse. Desire to reproduce. Same thing about gene is that you have. We evolved for a reason to believe in and to figure out what's true and reconcile differences. But how can you do that when you have a society that talks like what's true for you is not true for me?
Okay, when people are representing something like what's true for you is not true for me is not the same thing as saying there's no such thing as truth writ large. There's a huge. I love it when these guys can't hold on to the plot. There's two different things going on there. Speaking your truth is not the same thing as subscribing to alternative facts. The people that believe that are usually voting for Republicans. They're Trump followers because they do believe that they can color the world the way that they want it and then just insist that that's reality. The idea that somebody is like, this is my truth or something like that is an expression. These guys try to get way too much mileage out of things like this and try to say, oh, you're trying to pervert the language or something. Like, just like grow up.
There's a huge amount of YOLO nothing matters, going on here.
Yeah.
And I'm okay and fuck you is a hell of a way to run a railroad,
Exactly.
Truth is becoming so wishy-washy that if I want to identify as X, even though I'm not X, good for you.
Still not getting it.
At some point, we have to agree on definitions. We have to agree on.
Exactly. So why would you insist that another person lie about their identity? This is the amazing contradiction with his claim. Like, I'm not gonna let you lie to me or yourself about your trans identity. Like, okay, so here's the thing. As a trans person, I'm not speaking for myself because I'm not trans. As a trans person, this is my gender identity. It's not my sex. It's my trans identity. And because you're uncomfortable with it or don't get it, you're going to insist that I identify with something that I'm not. So what you really want isn't honesty. What you want is the lie you're most comfortable with. and you want me to take responsibility for your comfort and present that to you for your ego's sake. That
Right, and
is a complete
implicit.
snowflake.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
implicit in that is if I don't know anything of your history, and I perceive, my perception is you are a man, you are a woman, according to my definitions, then I have no problem with you.
Yeah.
I just want the notion of trans identities to entirely disappear.
Yeah, because what they think is that, you know, what they're trying to do here is they're trying to equate gender with sex and then say they can be whatever they want. Like, no, you're equating gender with sex and then insisting that they can't be anything other than how they were born. Because for whatever reason, and the interesting thing is, like, depending on how you're dealing with it psychologically, the gender identity is the way a person was born. It starts to develop over time, and it's how they express themselves. The idea that Doug would have and what Wilson would have is that that person actively fake it because they may be masculine or they may be a male, and they may behave feminine, or vice versa. But hey, the thing is, what you need to do is, if you've got this set of plumbing, you need to behave socially this way. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And I'm not
And
exactly.
additionally, you can't change that plumbing.
Right.
You
Well,
can't. You can't take any steps to. You can't. You know, physicians, even though they have the capability of doing so, shouldn't be prohibited from making any interventions to make the plumbing more appropriate
For the person
who you are.
Yeah, for the person's identity. Yeah. And I think, but do you agree that this is, I think the worst one for these guys to deal with, the worst example out of the LGBT community would be somebody who was a trans woman who never really did any of the physical transitioning. Just sort of like a non-binary or queer, where they're like, no, I identify as a woman. I'm biologically male. I'm not dysphoric, so I never bothered to get any of this stuff done. I think, and I don't know if you've brought this up with Doug, or if anybody else has while he's been talking about this. Like, I would really think that would kind of like, I would think that would cause him some consternation. An individual like that.
I've never addressed trans medicalists with Doug, but he's essentially he's basically takes the position. Well, that's not true. All my interactions with Doug, he's been extremely polite. He knows I'm trans. First time I met him, I had no idea that you were. But again, it's just, if you don't say anything, it's perfectly fine. And in fact, that used to be a requirement to transition of any sort. Can you pass?
Oh yeah, the social transition.
You know, and the social transition before any medical intervention was made. The only medical, aside from the medicine involved in psychology, in psychotherapy. These guys just, they're willfully ignorant, and to me, it's basically a bunch of guys clutching their nuts and being afraid that somebody's going to be after them. It's just
some of them.
It's so.
Well, I heard the guy, he's a comedy writer. Somebody was highlighting him. Maybe I once asked if he would treat someone differently depending on their gender. He said yes. I was shocked. I just don't get it. Yeah, I don't really get it either.
Anyway,
I
stick on the trans issues. I mean, it's just.
I am going
to. There's so much wrong with this debate and the review and the mutual admiration society between Doug and Andrew here that it's really disturbing.
And the fact that Doug doesn't even recognize that, because this is something that he gets a dopamine kick for, the fact that Wilson has derailed this debate with Dillahunty from the beginning, from his very opening, but because he's derailed it with a topic that Doug gets a charge out of, Doug is willing to cut him slack for completely screwing this up instead of looking at this like dude, like take a look at this discussion, like and you know, to Doug's partially in Doug's defense, Doug will be like, I wouldn't engage in a technical debate. He doesn't really have time for it. He'd just want to have a one-on-one back and forth conversation, something casual. Fine. But in terms of looking at these guys are staging this as a debate, Wilson just categorically, objectively failed at what he was doing. And Doug is cutting him slack for it because Doug is getting the red meat material from Wilson that he likes. And that's shameful.
That's basically it. That's basically it. You know, why do I do this? I'm just having too much fun. You know, why trans people happen to be his favorite plaything at the moment is something beyond me. I think it's because he gets clicks out of it. That's basically it.
I think that these guys, they believe they've taken the moral high ground over two issues, two faulty ones. One, they think that, and it's from two completely misguided concepts. One, they think that people are out to make kids trans, which is deranged. And the other is they think that trans women are a threat to biological females. I think those are the two things that they take. Like, women deserve their own free safe spaces. Trans women don't belong there, as if there's something intrinsically dangerous about trans women. That, I mean, it just assumes an enormous amount of bullshit. And then the other one about kids is a deranged conspiracy theory. And those are the two things that they can kind of bring up. And it's like, those can be debunked and dismantled so quickly and thoroughly. But they just keep insisting that's their concern.
Well, in both cases, they take the attitude that trans people, that either the trans children and or trans people generally are fundamentally misrepresenting their own life experiences.
Right.
They're unwilling to listen. In other words, they take the view that trans identities are impossible, and therefore they shouldn't be concerned when someone has one, presents with gender dysphoria, presents with this, and they think that gender dysphoria is something that can be cured. Well, it can be. The only successful treatment, though, has been to work with it.
Yeah.
Either towards the end of transitioning, or towards the end of saying, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
Right. It's some kind of reconciliation with how they are.
But they take away the agency of the people involved. They want to be the ones that make the decisions. They don't want the individuals involved and their caregivers and their families and their friends to have a say. They want to be the authority.
Yeah.
And that is authoritarian, and that is fascist, and that is what these two absolutely agree on.
Yeah. This is their common line of agreement. There was a point that I wanted to ask you about, because to the point that they were making about the. Yeah, it'll come back to me.
What is this thing we call truth?
This is the problem that because Doug, this is the tip that I think Doug, because I think it's an important component of it. So there's the two narratives, the one about the kids and then the one about the safe spaces for women. And I think they're informed by the idea, like what you said, Steph, the idea that what do you do when you have an individual, and in their case, the worst case scenario would be a child, prepubescent child, identifying as something other than the sex they're born with, and then they have to deal with this. So the narrative now is for them to say, well, the only reason I don't believe it's possible, I think it's impossible, that there is no distinction between man, male, female, woman. Therefore, this kid has been exposed to a dangerous ideology that has confused and deranged them.
And apparently said ideology existed in 1957.
Right.
Because that's my life experience. They just simply want to go back to in 1957. This was not understood, and if you were a trans kid, you were told you were impossible.
Yeah. But and then if you take other cultural approaches to this, the cultures that kind of accepted or recognized what they would call like the third gender or something like that. or whatever their cultural equivalent of it was. Obviously, that didn't require an ideology. Nothing had to be superimposed or dogmatically pushed onto a child or onto any person to convince them that this is what they are. And so, but I still see these guys, despite the fact that I know Doug has been acquainted with that fact, despite that that's out there, he can't make the connection to that. He still is, and it's an emotional reason, holding on to the idea that, because otherwise, why hold on to the idea that doctors are really aggressively pushing transition for kids that otherwise wouldn't want it or wouldn't need it? It's because to some degree, he's internalized this notion. There is an ideology out there. It's getting into your kids. It's confusing them. It's deranging them. It's disturbing their thoughts. And that's why they're gravitating towards this. It's a fad. It's a trend. That's the attitude I see coming from Doug.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's basically it. I mean, in my case, I think it was Pinocchio and the Little Mermaid that tranced me. So I suppose that's the way that works.
Well, Disney's always been blamed. All right.
It's just the notion that there is this pervasive ideology that's out there that's trying to accomplish, whatever oozes forth from Andrew's or Doug's brain when it comes to trans issues. It's just so not the experience of actual trans lives. Again, let's get away from, because there's so much wrong with what Andrew did in this thing and Doug's perception of it.
Yeah.
That there's just so much wrong with it. Andrew said, I'm going to grant you, after Matt's opening, I'm going to grant you, well, before did Doug show Andrew's opening? Andrew's response? I guess he did, but whatever. Andrew concedes. Okay, I'm going to concede you that I don't have anything to say on my side. I'm going to concede all of your points. At which point, I don't understand why James or who was the moderator? I forget.
It's James from Modern Day Debate. Yeah.
Well, no, James wasn't moderating the debate. I forget who the moderator was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, it'll come to me. I don't understand why one of them didn't stand up. The moderator didn't stand up and say, well, we're here for a debate, and you seem to have conceded the position. Thank you, Mr. Dillahunty. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for coming. Sorry, we are not going to discuss the issues we agreed to discuss, but I guess that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Preserving homosexuality in society is good for human flourishing, even though they are reproductive dead ends. And that Western society and egalitarianism is superior to those evil theist society, even though the Western nations can't even reproduce their own populations, but instead have to replace their population with foreigners from those theist nations that can reproduce.
So there's a dozen things.
Replacement. Great replacement theory.
And Doug is nodding along like, yeah, well, there's something there. We're not producing enough kids on our own. Like, I remember John Gibson out of Fox News. He used to be on CNN, I think, years ago. And a white-haired dude, kind of looked like I can't remember that alien species in Star Trek with the white hair and blue skin, but he always reminded me of one of them. But he got in trouble for that because out of nowhere on one thing, he's like, yeah, there's a demographic report. White people aren't producing enough at a replacement rate, but the immigrant and or Latino, African American, Asian communities are. Get to breeding white people. Like, dude, like he got fired like right after that. And now this is like a commonplace conservative talking point. The fact that he's mentioning the idea that like, well, hey, these Western countries can't breed enough to replace, they have to rely on immigrants from, if you have, none of these societies have been all that locked down. Even Western European countries do have some amount of immigration. It's less than the United States, but they do have a certain amount of legal immigration. They obviously have asylum and refugee policies like the US does. That's always going to be the case. And if you're a society based on the rule of law and not based on some cockamamie notion of like white identity, it doesn't matter which Americans are breeding. Are Americans breeding at a replacement rate or above? Absolutely. According to Wilson, though, the quote unquote real Americans aren't. And that's racist as shit.
Yeah, and it's also rhetoric you're hearing from the campaign podiums of the remaining contestants for the nomination, for the Republican nomination for president.
Yeah.
That's extremely disturbing. And these guys absolutely agree. Now, Doug might not agree with the Christian component, but he doesn't live in Utah. You know?
Right.
It's that, you know, I don't. It's fucking pernicious. It just is.
It is.
That's true. He's not wrong.
There you
As
go.
societies become more affluent, more rich, and more secular, they have less kids.
That's actually sustainable. For the local area, for the planet, it's more sustainable. That's probably a better way to go. That would be like Wilson is one of these is a ding dong that actually said in I don't have it up here. He had a debate with Vosh, the online personality, about 3 months ago, and I don't watch Vosh that regularly, but yeah, intermittently, because I disagree with him on some of his takes and some of his interactions he's had with other kind of left-leaning people online. But he had a debate with Andrew Wilson. And Wilson made the argument that if you have more people, you have more productivity and you have more food. Like, we need more people because if we don't, like, he thinks that the planet's going to be fine at like 20 billion people. He was pointing out a statistic that was showing that the population of the planet is dying off and we need to breed more, and nothing about it indicates that this is a crisis. If anything, it shows that there's going to be an increase. We're probably going to hit, some projection says we're going to hit 12 billion, maybe even 15 billion, level off and then decline. And so, you know, he's just like, well, that's just terrible. The more people you have, obviously you have more productivity, and then you have more food, because if you don't have enough people, how are you going to have enough people to harvest all the food for the rest of the people to eat? I'm like, this guy is so ignorant that he doesn't understand that at around World War II, about 60% or more of working age people were involved in agriculture work before we went into World War II. By the time we hit the mid to late 90s, it was less than 1% of the working population was involved in agriculture. That's how automated it is. He's that ignorant. Like, he hasn't even paid attention to like how even just this country works. Like, it's amazing.
Indeed, and all of that automation it involves what resources are being used to sustain that, you know, and those resources are finite, and eventually, when those resources run out, unless you develop other strategies, you're kind of on a cascading curve, on a cascade downward.
Yeah, if he wanted,
it leads to collapse.
If he wanted to say that, look, we can't have the kind of mechanized industrial farming because we're going to hit peak oil, or we're going to go past, we're going to hit a crisis point, we're not going to have that kind of energy, then it'd be like, okay, well, in that case, you are going to need a lot of labor to go back into agriculture, assuming that equipment and that technology doesn't shift over to something like solar or gas powered or some kind of equivalent. If that's not shifted, I would say, yeah, absolutely, then you might have an issue. But in terms of its productivity and everything, it's like he didn't bring that up. He didn't actually use that as any kind of context for what he was saying. He just seemed to be making the point with this other guy, Vosh. More people equals more harvesting people equals more food. Like, we produce something like 4 times the amount of food that we can eat, and a lot of it goes to waste, even before we can sell it off to international markets. He just doesn't.
What's interesting in that scenario is oh, well, you have more people to harvest the food, but how do you grow the food?
Exactly. Yeah.
If there's no food to harvest, you got an issue.
Yeah, the idea that, like, and on top of that, it's like you have other problems. Every person represents a certain amount of resources in terms of food, land, space, water, you know, and even just service resources in terms of, like, are you going to have enough medical personnel to even take care of these people. If you've got, if you have a $15 billion global population and all of them are uneducated and can't really, you're going to have a lot of turnover. Maybe that's what Wilson wants, an average lifespan of 45. People are dying of their teeth again. Infant mortality is up around 50%. It's a flip of a coin. Maybe maybe he thinks that's better. I don't know.
That's the way God planned it, So
apparently, yeah.
Start with a basic societal question recently asked of the West, who has now embraced a scientific and non-theistic approach to governing. Super basic question.
When have we approached, when has the United States or any country, I mean, with the exception of maybe Estonia, approached a purely scientific approach to governing versus something grounded in either philosophy, religion, something like that? This guy's talking, he's just farting up here at this point. This makes no sense. Like every government, usually, every president that we have, regardless of their beliefs, says God bless, God bless, you, God bless the United States of America. I mean, everything is informed by a sense of cultural history, and in some cases, notions of cultural destiny. If you get into some of the conservative stuff. But I'm curious where he's going to go.
Question every kindergartner knows. If you don't believe me, go watch Kindergarten Cop. The question posed to the Western nation is, can a man be a woman? Right? To the question of if
no, because those are gender identities, and you can't be both. That's a simple one. Can a man be a woman?
Be non-binary. I mean, it's like
they can be non-binary. Yeah, but the idea
it's essentialist claptrap, and even in biology, there are crossovers. It's just
yeah,
bimodal distribution and whatnot. But that's not something black and white thinkers want to even consider.
Yeah.
If a man can be a woman, they say the answer is yes. And the way we will decree they can be a woman is by simply saying that woman now means male. Problem solved. Thank you, secular humanists.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that?
A woman can mean male, or a male can be a woman.
Immediately goes for the red meat. Like secular humanism does not have this stance on trans identities. I don't think secular humanism weighs in on this. It definitely doesn't present it the way Andrew's presenting it. It doesn't weigh in on this in any way.
But go back 5 seconds. You've got Doug taking issue with Andrew on this particular point, which I think is interesting.
By simply saying that woman now means male. Problem solved. Thank you, secular humanists.
Yeah, that woman can mean male, or a male can be a woman. But this all gets down to definitions. And what Andrew's getting at is we have a history of how words are typically used. And when you start just saying, no, we're going to change the definition of words, how can you actually progress even towards a better society when you can't acknowledge the truth?
I didn't ask my question with that much loaded on at the end of it, but I think I have asked to Doug if he was listening. Yeah, okay, define woke. In a way that's not your own definition, And
I agree with Andrew here.
Why?
On what?
On what?
Like when certain truths are not allowed to be uttered for fear of offense, that's a problem in secular humanism.
What's the truth? I'm kind of like, because now it sounds like, okay, so a man has to be male and a woman has to be female. Is that the truth that Doug's talking about? I'm pretty sure it is. And if anybody is messing around, well, you're messing around with our language. I won't tolerate that. But remember, woke just equals somebody who suffers from feel-sorryism. Per Doug, the guy that believes that definitions need to have a fixed objective standard.
Yeah, the whole feel sorry something is something that puzzles me.
I went off on a rant in one of my first videos I did when I covered that. It's based, that to me harkens back to my days when I started getting into the conservative political movement and the rhetoric. Feel sorry for ism is just a different way of saying tree hugging liberal. It's or the bleeding heart liberal. That's all it is. It's a bleeding heart. And Doug's in that camp, and it never made sense to me then. It doesn't. Even then, I was skeptical of trying to, and I was hardcore right wing, hardcore conservative, but I was more libertarian. I was kind of like probably anarcho capitalist kind of guy. The kind of stuff that these guys are doing, the kind of moralizing that they're doing. I think even when I was a young conservative, I wouldn't have gone for it. At least I'd like to think that I wouldn't. But the notion that they're going to do the okay, I've kind of lost my train of thought on that. It's not important.
To actually state that some people are not as good as other people, that's a huge red flag in secular humanism. When it's actually true, depending on how you define better, but you can very easily define better in terms of how people are treated. A person who never rapes another person is better than a person who does. In that,
I don't know that secular humanists would disagree with that. I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to bring up as an objection here. Like, oh, the secular humanists are too wishy-washy. They got to feel sorry for isms or something. Like, I don't know that he understands what that position is. I think that secular humanism would account for the fact, like, you have people that are trying to raise a family and live their life as they choose, and then you have other people like serial killers who are out to prey on other human beings. Those people are objectively not great to have around. I think you can be a secular humanist and make allowances for that view. It's not controversial.
Yeah, there are ordinary people, and then there's Jack the Ripper.
Exactly. Yeah, and this idea, like, well, if
What?
you're a secular humanist, you have to then, like, you can't just say that. If you say that everybody's the same, that means you can't punish Hannibal Lecter. Like, that is not what that means. Like, okay, well then if you do punish Hannibal Lecter, that means you have to hold these trans people I disagree with to the same standard you'd hold Jack the Ripper. No, I don't have to do that either. None of these work. All of them are fallacious. You're being childish. Like, Doug is losing Andrew Wilson at this debate too. Like, he's just absorbed the red meat of this kind of stuff because he wants to talk about this woke ideology tip that he's on instead of dealing with the fact that Andrew is fucking up a debate. Which, if Pine Creek were taking his own advice and were more dead inside and were less triggered by pretty cupcakes that he's hungry for, he would be understand. Oh no, actually, if you look at this, they agreed to a debate. They're going to present both sides. Wilson's just going after Matt Dillahunty's previous statements. That's
yeah. Wilson's using the debate to feather his own nest. I mean, he's not there to debate the issue. He's not there to do anything. He's there to do what Doug seems to be enjoying of late, which is going after Matt.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I guess you're free to do that, but you're not making a serious point about the nature of debate, about the nature of what works for what purposes. This is all done for eyeballs on screens and asses in seats and for fun.
Which I'll admit, yeah, mine's more the third part, for fun. I got a small channel, but the thing I find weird is that they're going after Matt Dillahunty in a way that's like he's catnip for these guys. Like, and I'm kind of wrapping them all up because there is a slight difference between somebody like, because I don't think Doug would care one way or the other if he got to talk to Matt, but to antagonize Matt's position, he'll definitely get off on. But the idea of like,
he did get to talk to Arden on her show.
Yeah, and I think But this kind of stuff where he's kind of, somebody's like, I'm going to go after Matt Dillahunty. Like, first of all, if you're that pugnacious, more than likely Dillahunty's not going to give you the time of day. If you do have something interesting to say and you want to debate him, I don't know if it does you a lot of good to go after something like, well, I want to have an argument with Matt Dillahunty. Like, well, here's the thing. Matt Dillahunty genuinely seems to enjoy arguing, or at least it comes naturally to him. I don't know that you're really providing him anything novel. It's not a great idea. So I think he's just going to be bored with it. This idea of holding Matt Dillahunty up as this like kind of white whale of atheism that, every theist needs to tilt against us. And sorry for the mixed metaphors there. That was Quixote and Moby Dick. I don't get it. Like, but then again, I do the same thing. I have Darth estrangement syndrome, so
I'm trying to find a way of working in Anne of Green Gables into the conversation, but I can't. So.
Bro, I think Doug uses stoicism as a mask over his own lack of empathy. Yes, I think he does too, and I think I've accused him of as much. Yeah, I think he thinks that's what stoicism is.
He has in conversation with me said he doesn't have empathy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my upbringing, quoth him. And maybe it is, but I do think that that's one of the that's an issue. That okay, fine. Then stick to the logic and stop saying you're dead inside, because you're having fun with this.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, stop lying to us and to yourself.
Area.
I'm going to flash forward because
You can say that.
I'm going
Right.
to the part that we had left off, which is
A person with the
he yells at him.
Why not be the better man, Matt? Sit down. Try to find points of agreement. Try to take one issue.
No, you don't. That doesn't make you the better person. It does not make you the better person to give your presentation in a debate, listen to this jackass here, screw up his side completely, and demonstrate to everybody and you that what he's there to do is conflate you past things that you said with the position that you're currently taking, and then dragging that through the dirt so that you can then make the debate about a competition of personalities, of personal viewpoints, instead of what the debate was supposed to be about was which of these two ethical frameworks is better for the world. That was what was supposed to happen. Sitting down and saying, hey, what can we agree on is kind of dumb, because here's the thing. Doug would be like, oh, well, you know what? Andrew and I can agree on this whole Western replacement theory thing, the birth rate thing, and we can also agree on maybe the trans thing. Those are things that we can agree on. Like, yeah, cool. Can you agree on the fact that Andrew Wilson completely failed to present an actual opening to really provide a position in this debate? Can you agree on that? If you can agree on that, then you can agree that Wilson lost from the jump, and you can end the debate, which Dillahunty did. So as far, I think it's fascinating to me that Doug and others that watch him and other people that are fans of Andrew Wilson miss this point. And I say it again, Dillahunty did take a principled stance. His principled stance was to cancel the debate and stand up and walk out. It was obvious what Andrew was there to do. He was there to troll and get attention, bring attention to himself and his channel. That's it. He was using Matt and he was using James, and James let him, because James will get views and clicks for it too. So
correct. And the indication of that is that rather than all right, you're the producer of the show, okay? And here's the premise of the show. This is what we're going to be presenting you, audience. This is why you're here. This is why you bought your tickets. And the show, and now you have a guy on the stage who's supposed to be playing the role of Hamlet, but he's playing Macbeth. You're not getting what you paid for. And rather than acknowledging, sorry, audience, you came here to see Hamlet, but apparently one of our actors is having a conversation with three witches on the stage instead of a skull. We're just going to say thanks for coming, and sorry it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what MDD did. What they did was let this happen without intervention. I mean, at any point, Ryan, and that was the moderator's name, at any point, Ryan could have gotten in and saying, hold on, let's get back to the topic. We want to hear your views on why a Christian worldview is better than a secular humanist worldview. If you're not going to do that, the debate is over. Rather than doing that, they let this move to its natural consequence, which is to say a whole litany of personal attacks on Dillahunty, not on the position he's taking, but on him and his domestic partner. And then after that, let Andrew go on for another half hour taking questions from the audience.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that really what you want to be doing here?
Yeah, you should not be rewarding the guy that turned your debate into a sideshow. But I mean, at the same time, if James's defense is that we're doing this because it is 80% spectacle, 20% debate, it's like, okay, that's fine, but you are now facilitating a really bad dialectic for these kinds of public spaces, and even the analysis on this afterward was, oh, Matt got so triggered, if there was any analysis at all. And
Yeah,
even
well,
Doug,
that's
who
the-
Doug could normally be counted on to get some pretty parsimonious analysis of something that he's viewing, but he's incapable of doing it. All Wilson has to do is bring up trans stuff or subjective truth or wishy-washy this or that or woke, and Doug just follows that right down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
So.
and to me, the other in the aftermath of the whole thing, Ryan went on a campaign on various channels, just sort of dropping in the chat room saying, "Well, Matt had this all planned. This was a setup." And because Matt's trying to do a debate thing on his own channel and blah 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 blah. When Matt wasn't the guy who brought his own filmographer in to record the debate. If anybody set this thing up, it was Wilson. And you let it happen.
Yeah, I could see Andrew, plan it in advance because he obviously knows about Matt.
He brought his own videographer into the audience to film the thing.
So this feed here is coming from James and his camera. So there's another angle on this stuff.
Correct.
So yeah. Well, it's interesting because if Wilson was banking on the fact that he was going to be allowed to stay and then stay for questions after he could get Matt to leave, if he could get Matt
Andrew
to
got everything he wanted out of this. Everything.
I think he probably, I don't know, he might have felt a little gypped. I think he would have liked it if they could get into a heated back and forth and he could have gotten a more, rather than the kind of like Matt, because Matt can always say, look, I took the principled position, I just left because this guy's trolling. If he'd stayed there and tried to interact with him and they both got heated and stuff, that'd get manipulated into short clips that Wilson would mine for views indefinitely, So yeah, either way, but yeah, you're right. Either way, Wilson won coming and going. It was just.
Well, he won. He achieved his objectives. He did not win the debate because the debate was always a Potemkin village for him. He wasn't there to debate. He was there to get. He was there to get followers.
Yeah, that was just incidental. That was just the medium.
Which is, I think, a cautionary tale. As to what you do with people like Wilson.
And I think, I think you're right.
Whose mission is to spread an authoritarian vision of the world in which he's the king.
Yeah, but also at the same time, he's representing his own channel, The Crucible, which kind of is, is supposed to be doing kind of the same thing that modern day debate is. And if this guy is the head of that show, and this is how he treats a debate, he clearly has no respect for debate, forensics, discussion, logic. It's like, so, okay, so now we have it. So yeah, if he's just there to kind of flag that for himself, and James is kind of letting him do that, it was just sort of like James is willing to allow this guy to do something shamelessly self-promoting because James will get views from it. So hell, I'm here reviewing it, and I'm tapped into James's feed for it. I was not aware. I think I'd heard that. I thought I'd heard that Wilson had his own filmographer there, but I hadn't seen footage from it, so I never.
I haven't either, but I do know he did have his own dude. Doing the whole thing.
Like, if I paid Matt $1 million to keep his emotions in check, could he do it?
Fuck's sake.
If I paid Matt $1 million to not get upset, no matter what Andrew says, to be more dead inside, could he do it?
This is irrelevant.
Is there any amount of incentive that could do it?
If I played Matt to play King Lear, would he do it? Jesus Christ.
Exactly. Like, oh, it's Matt's fault because he got upset. Doug is taking the debate bro bait here. Like, oh, Doug got triggered. He got mad. He stormed off. Therefore, he lost. No, he didn't. He just didn't. Maya writes, the Crucible gained more subs, so he obviously didn't do that much damage with his crowd. No. No, with Wilson's crowd, he wouldn't have done any damage at all. I kind of wonder if James stayed the same, gained subs. I don't know how this helped. I mean, definitely would get views from this thing because everybody was linking it and talking about it for at least for a while. It's died down, but I kind of wonder if James lost viewers or has been losing viewers. I'm not sure how his channel's doing. I don't watch a lot of that stuff.
Cover my expense. You don't have anything to worry about. This debate is over. Goodbye,
Goodbye.
jackass.
Did you call me a jackass, Matt? Well, you and your husband have a good day, Matt. Have a wonderful day, Matt.
He's so proud of himself for doing that. Like, this guy's a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
See, now, I can't totally imagine myself dating a trans person. I can intellectually sort of imagine it.
unnecessary. Why do you like this? This is the limits of his empathy. You know, if I can't vicariously experience it, then it doesn't matter. I'll try, but no. Like, Jesus, Doug.
You know,
Like-
the shit-eating grin on Doug's face when that came out of Andrew's mouth is also pretty telling. It's just, haha, good one, Andrew.
Yeah.
I think I'm the type of personality type that even if I were having coitus with a trans person, that wouldn't bother me.
It's not about whether or not it bothered Matt. It's about whether or not it was said to specifically bother Arden, Doug. If Matt is in a relationship with his partner and his partner is in the room, and that statement isn't necessarily directed to hurt Matt's feelings, but to hurt Arden's feelings, that is, even if Matt can take it in stride, he's going to be, at the very least, indignant that this guy's trying to goad him and Arden. I don't understand. Like you can be offended at this just because of the complete lack of respect and lack of consideration, not just for Matt and Arden, but for everybody in that fucking room. This is a completely disrespectful, shitty thing to do in front of a group of people. This is Andrew showing everyone his ass. He doesn't give a shit about anyone there, anyone watching. He gives even less of a shit about James, whose channel he's on and is ostensibly representing in this exchange. And he definitely doesn't give a shit about Arden or Matt. At this point, this is when James and the moderator should have pulled the plug. And they definitely should not have been allowed. Wilson should not have been allowed to stay up there for fucking questions after this fucking shit show. They should have yanked him and canceled it. The fact that they didn't shows you just how desperate they are for views. They're doing this for clicks. They just did not have, they don't really have any kind of ground to stand on. The standards here are awful.
You and your husband have a good day, sir. I just smile and say goodbye. I mean,
cool. You would react that way. Do you think would you react that way if your domestic partner was there this is a man who has said he has gotten worked up. Doug has gotten personally angry, and he's admitted this to me when we had an exchange, angry enough to want to see his interlocutor, the person, his conversation partner, hurt because that person made a glib or flippant remark about the sister that Doug had who passed away a few years ago. She was suffering from a variety of health issues. She passed away, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. Someone he was having a conversation with, I don't remember if it was Randall Rouser or someone else, this might have happened more than once, but he has admitted that on at least one occasion, people have made flippant remarks about his sister to the point that has made him incredibly incensed, to the point that he has had the desire to see that person harmed. And I'm using that as passively as possible here. Now, Matt has heard this guy say this in the same room where his domestic partner, Arden, is. So imagine, if Doug can't imagine this, imagine that Andrew Wilson is being this disrespectful to Doug's sister. And she's in the room, and so is Doug. That's where he needs to go with this. This is the lack of respect and consideration on display from Wilson, and the fact that Doug doesn't get this is because Doug's lazy and can't work his empathy muscles. He does know how this works. He's gotten this upset with people. He understands getting upset on behalf of the memory or the reputation of someone else, his loved one, his sister, and he's not even assuming that that's why Matt is upset here, because he's upset on behalf of Arden.
But I just, maybe I'm just weird.
Agreed. You're just weird.
And then they go on. Andrew said yesterday that he had his own videographer there.
Oh.
And sometime today he's going to play it. Maybe he's already, let me check to see if he's already.
Nah, I'm not going to get into that. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Stephanie, you're still there? I noticed you're muted. Might be on a phone call. But I'm going to wrap it up there. But yeah, no, this Doug's take is weird. He was distracted by Andrew's talking points. He wasn't paying attention to why the structure of this debate went wrong. But that's okay, because James didn't either. And James was hosting the whole thing. So yeah, the whole thing was just a shit show. And the most disappointing thing to me, and the reason that I took this tact of showing this commentary through Doug's commentary, was to illustrate in real time the point, that my central point, which is watching somebody completely miss the point of this exchange and fixate on Doug's thing. He's trying to find points of agreement, but what he's actually doing is confirming his own biases by picking out the things that he likes from Andrew Wilson and then disregarding the fact that Wilson is completely operating in bad faith. That is not a principled position to take. That is the position of a troll and a coward.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. This this has been covered a lot, and but just before we go, just this one little thing.
Sure.
Hang just a second. Let me share this clip. Just we sharing it?
There it is. Okay.
Apologetics today. Hey, Andrew, before you go, I probably don't want to debate you on Christian nationalism because we probably agreed on too much. Because
probably.
Because like I watch videos of the stuff that's happening in California with people stealing and robbing with
Apologetics today.
Hey, I probably don't want to debate you on Christian.
So there you go.
Good Lord. He doesn't want. He started to slide into the conversation about like criminals and the shoplifting and retail crime, even though it's been confirmed that when Target listed that as a reason for why they were closing down 9 locations, it was discovered that they were lying. It was a propaganda move that they were using to sell it, because the position that the stores that they had kept open were actually in higher crime areas. The reason they closed the 9 locations that they had was because the profit margins were low, because they had tried to move into areas they thought that were going to be gentrified, and the pandemic didn't allow that to happen. And so
at the end of the day, what you've got here is the atheist, the proud atheist, agreeing with the Orthodox Christian
on Christian nationalism,
Orthodox Christian nationalist, on the premise that this ideology of keeping the fill in the blank down is the best approach for a modern society. We probably agree on it too much.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you can take the boy out of the Mennonite community, but some of the Mennonite community you can't really take out of the boy, I guess. I don't know if Mennonites have any kind of inclinations towards a nationalistic identity or what their views are. I can't imagine they have very progressive views when it comes to LGBTQ issues, but I don't know.
Not so much,
Mennonites.
no.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Nicola writes, it bears mentioning that this was the 3rd time James platformed someone who had no interest in the topic to debate Matt just so they could get clout. The 3rd? Who were the other 2? I probably know them. I've probably just kind of
Hakikachu and that other guy who went absolutely apeshit nuts. I forget who that guy was.
That one sounds fun. Maybe I saw that one if it's old enough. Yeah, a lot of the stuff like modern day debate over the last like year and a half, I really don't pay attention unless something really kind of splashes up like this one did. And hell, even this, it's 2 months getting around to reviewing it. But thanks, Steph, for joining me for this. I appreciate it. Do you mind if I call you Steph for short, or?
No, I don't mind at all.
Okay, yeah, I know some people don't like
Fine.
shortening, their names getting shortened. So
No, that's fine.
but yeah, thanks for showing up, and thanks to Michael from the Canadian Atheist. He had to dip out early, and Jay, my brother, he had to dip out a little bit early too. Thank you all for showing up. This was a fun one and a long one, so I am going to get around and try to do something, even though it looks like Hoth outside. This could be fun. I want to order out and get something good for lunch, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. So yeah, everyone, great live chat. Thank you everybody for being in there. Like, subscribe, or whatever. Email me with thoughts, comments, suggestions, jeffersonspatchcock@gmail.com. And other than that, take care of yourselves. And if your weather sucks, really take care of yourselves, I guess. Thank you again, Steph. It's been great seeing you.
Great seeing you. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, anytime. And we are out of here, folks. Take care.